On a sunny day amidst the bustling traffic, young So stands on the sidewalk, waiting for the pedestrian signal to turn green. He checks his chat with his mother, who tells him about their plans to meet friends later. She reminds him to feed Dilby and avoid conflicts with Jenho. So replies, assuring his mother that he has received and understood her message. As the pedestrian signal turns green, So joins the others in crossing the road. He opens a chat with one of his friends, who informs him that they are waiting for him in the gaming room. They urge him to hurry up, reminding him that he was the one who wanted to play in the first place. So quickly responds, assuring his friend that he is on his way to join them. Suddenly, while engrossed in his phone, So collides with another person coming from the opposite side of the road. The person scolds him, urging him to be more attentive. Irritated, So quickly apologizes, but the encounter adds to his annoyance. He continues walking, shoving his hands into his jeans pockets, wishing for a place without people as he's fed up with the interactions. Suddenly, the earth begins to tremble, and an earthquake strikes with force. A massive thunderstorm adds to the chaos, leaving everyone frightened and unsure of what's happening. Then, a deafening crash shakes the surroundings as a building is struck and reduced to ashes. A rain of flashes follows, wreaking havoc, causing destruction, and sending people into a panic, desperately seeking safety. Amidst the turmoil, So finds it difficult to comprehend the surreal events unfolding and wonders if he is trapped in a dream. Unexpectedly, a truck emerges out of nowhere and honks loudly, urging So to make way. But it's too late, and it seems like a collision with the truck is imminent. Fearing the worst, So tightly shuts his eyes. However, the sound of a thunderstorm startles him, causing him to open his eyes after a few tense moments, only to find that nothing has happened. To his bewilderment, when he opens his eyes, he realizes that he is lying naked in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by dense woods. A sense of horror engulfs him as he wonders where he is, considering he was just about to be hit by a truck moments ago. As he lies on his back in the grass, he looks up and is taken aback by the sight of two moons adorning the sky, accompanied by numerous dragons gracefully soaring through the sky. Filled with fear and confusion, So stands up, and at that very moment, a gigantic bear menacingly approaches him, seemingly intent on making him its meal. Yet, before the bear can harm him, a pack of wild wolves rush to his rescue, attacking the bear in a fierce battle. While scribbling notes in his file, the doctor questions So about his account of waking up on a planet with two moons, encountering unfamiliar monstrous creatures in a forest, witnessing a battle between a giant bear and a pack of wolves seemingly out of thin air. So, dressed in patient attire, remains silent, trying to process the surreal experience. The doctor continues, asking how So managed to survive in such a dangerous environment and find his way back to Earth. Memories flood back to So as he recalls the perilous situation. He remembers how the deadly monsters closed in on him, but the pack of wolves bravely fought them off while he sought refuge behind massive stones. As So sits behind massive rocks, terrified, something catches his attention from behind. He turns to see a small white wolf approaching him, and fear instantly grips his heart. So recounts his harrowing escape to the doctor, explaining his desperate run through the woods. Suddenly, he hears an announcement declaring his stamina has increased by 1, catching him off guard and causing him to stumble and fall down a slope. After reaching the ground, he coughs and tries to stand up, still uncertain about what he heard. He wonders if he imagined it and notices a red vegetable-like plant growing nearby. Feeling hungry, So contemplates whether it's safe to eat. Spotting a fallen vegetable from the plant with ants munching on it, he assumes it must be safe and plucks one to eat. However, just as he begins munching on it, he hears slithering and rustling from the bushes behind him. Startled, he turns around and comes face to face with a creepy eye peering at him. It belongs to a gigantic snake, its mouth wide open, rushing towards So, who gazes back in terror and hiccups. Before the snake can reach him, a massive frog jumps into action, chomping down on the snake's head with a resounding splash, causing both the frog and the snake to vanish. With another hiccup of astonishment, So realizes that this place is truly bizarre. Once again, So finds himself falling, this time face down, and it dawns on him that something is wrong with himself. Suddenly, rain starts to pour down in a splatter, offering a much-needed source of water. Taking refuge on a tree branch beneath a large leaf, So positions himself to catch the droplets, quenching his thirst. As he reflects on his circumstances, So realizes that he has been stranded for 67 days. The relentless wolf pack that has been chasing him still lurks in the area, keeping him on high alert as he never knows when they might strike. Yet, it's not only the wolves that he fears. The entire forest seems to be brimming with danger, compelling him to seek a safer place for survival. With two moons silently watching over the sky, So has endured a year of being stranded in this mysterious place. Climbing onto a sturdy branch of a banana tree, he plucks a gigantic banana. As he hears that peculiar announcement once more, stating his strength has been increased by 1, So holds the massive banana in one hand, exerting considerable force as he lifts the banana. Sitting on the substantial tree branch, he positions the banana in front of him and starts munching, his face buried into the fruit. A realization dawns upon him that perhaps the reason he has managed to stay alive is that he has adapted to this challenging environment. While savoring his food, So notices a wolf cub that has become a constant companion, following him everywhere. Surprisingly, So has grown accustomed to the cub's presence, and when it's not around, he finds himself missing it. Engrossed in eating the banana, So suddenly feels something dripping on his back. Startled, he lifts his face to find a gigantic gorilla leaping towards him, roaring with saliva dripping from its mouth, with one hand gripping the banana and the other holding onto a rope hanging from a tree. So quickly swings and hangs onto the rope, trying to keep a safe distance from the approaching gorilla. However, with a powerful thud, the gorilla breaks the tree branch, causing So to hold on even tighter. The gorilla then lands on the ground with a forceful impact, narrowly missing the wolf cub, almost crushing it. In the commotion, a thorn pricks the wolf cub's leg, causing it to roar at the gorilla in defiance. The gigantic gorilla responds by fiercely punching the ground right in front of the tiny wolf cub, sending it flying backward due to the immense difference in size and strength between them. In a brave effort to defend the wolf cub, So takes a daring leap from the hanging position on the tree and lands on the gorilla's back. Swiftly, he seizes a thorny branch and thrusts it into the gorilla's eye, causing the massive creature to scream in agony. However, the gorilla retaliates, grabbing So and hurling him forcefully into a nearby tree. The wolf cub seizes the opportunity to escape. As the gorilla charges towards So once more, he can't help but wonder what he was thinking when he decided to take on such a formidable opponent. The doctor inquires about So's decision, to which So responds that he couldn't keep avoiding a confrontation. He understood that he would have to face this challenge sooner or later. The doctor listens attentively as So explains that no matter where you go, there will always be someone in charge or a leader of some kind. So lies helpless on the ground with his back against a tree as the gorilla charges towards him. But before the gorilla can reach him, the red wolf pack intervenes and attacks the gorilla. So loses consciousness, with blood coming from the side of his head. When he awakens, he is surprised to find that the wolf pack hasn't harmed him. He believes they see him as the savior of the white wolf cub, who is the heir to the wolf king and leads the red wolf pack. The white wolf, accompanied by the red wolf pack, sets off on a vigorous rumble, running through the wilderness. Amidst the frenzy, the white wolf cub notices So standing behind, alone, and begins to chase him. So joins them in their run, keeping pace with the wolves. When the white wolf cub grows tired and starts panting, So picks it up in his arms and continues running alongside the pack. Together, they howl, creating a harmonious chorus. 31 years have elapsed since So found himself stranded in this enigmatic place, and he has come to realize that the wolves have fully accepted him as one of their own. Despite the passing time, So remains in the forest, unable to find a way to escape. His experience and time spent in this wilderness have made him agile and adept at mastering the landscape. So can now effortlessly leap on hills and maneuver through the forest with ease. However, even after all these years, he hasn't encountered a single human being in this peculiar realm. During one of his encounters, a monstrous snake attacks So, but he skillfully fends it off and defeats it with a knife. The pack of red wolves gather around to feast on the slain snake. Over time, So has truly become a member of the wolf pack, and together, they continue to engage in the ongoing turf war, fighting and devouring various dangerous creatures that inhabit the forest. In this world where humans are absent, So has embraced his life alongside the wolves, and their mutual survival depends on their collective strength and unity in the face of the forest's relentless dangers. So finds himself stranded for an astounding 120 years now, and he believes he may be the sole human on this enigmatic planet. Over time, he has fashioned peculiar and primitive attire from wood, tattered rags, and dried leaves to adapt to the wild surroundings. His journey for survival has been a relentless struggle, during which he has forged bonds with several furry companions, yet also experienced the pain of losing some along the way. Seated on his knees, So gazes at a blood-stained knife placed before him, pondering how many years have slipped by since he first became stranded. He has long given up trying to count, as centuries seem to have passed, leaving him astonished at how he managed to stay alive all this time. Curiously, the doctor asks if this is how So became the king of the wolves, with over 500 years having elapsed, and yet he never found any traces of civilization. The doctor wonders how he was eventually able to return to Earth, considering the vast expanse of time that has transpired in this enigmatic world. The conflict for control of Moon Hill between So's pack of red wolves and the gorillas had commenced. Between the fierce battle, a gorilla charges at So, but he retaliates fiercely, leaping at the gorilla with a knife in hand, determined to take it down. However, in an instant, the scene changes drastically. Suddenly, the setting shifts to a civilized area surrounded by buildings, and a group of agents are on a critical mission, equipped with beeping devices in their hands. The lady agent informs the head agent that something unusual is happening, as the dimensional energy readings are registering off the charts. The head agent promptly instructs a subordinate to transmit the coordinates to the portal management team, which he does without delay. A loud rumbling sound, accompanied by a burst of colossal lightning, suggests that the portal is on the verge of opening. The subordinates quickly retreat in opposite directions, uncertain about what may emerge from the portal. As the portal opens, the force is so strong that they all fall to their backs, desperately trying to protect themselves from whatever may come through. In the midst of the chaos, the lady agent boldly marches toward the portal, brandishing her sword, and declares that she will buy time for the rest of the team to escape. The injured subordinates lying on the floor crawl forward, utilizing their telecom devices to issue a desperate call for help, uttering "Mayday, Mayday," in a plea for assistance. The determined lady agent issues a stern warning to whatever entity is about to emerge from the portal, demanding it to reveal itself. She asserts that she will not hesitate to tear it to pieces. As the lightning intensifies, a figure finally emerges from the portal, and to the lady agent's astonishment, it turns out to be a human. Her hands, still poised on her sword, freeze in place, leaving her unable to move. Trembling with surprise and disbelief, she is rendered momentarily speechless by this unexpected encounter. So lets out a fierce roar. After So lets out a sudden roar, the lady agent, Suyong Choi, becomes paralyzed with fear and trembling, shocked by the encounter. But So's physical condition deteriorates abruptly, and he collapses to the ground, losing consciousness before the lady agent's eyes. The head agent is perplexed and struggles to grasp the situation, questioning if they have truly encountered a human. The force they just experienced was unlike anything they've ever encountered, surpassing even the ferocity of the monsters coming from high-ranking dungeons. As Suyong Choi gazes at the unconscious figure of So lying on the ground, she can't help but wonder who this person is. Realizing that the situation is now under control, the agents decide to call for an ambulance to attend to the mysterious returnee they have discovered. The doctor stops the recording device he's holding and commends So for his excellent cooperation during the testimony. He explains that So's account and current health status will be shared with the returnee control department. The doctor reassures So that his health is stable, and he can expect to be discharged from the hospital in a few days. As the doctor is about to depart, So calls out to him, playfully referring to him as Baldy Doc. Sue expresses his gratitude for having a conversation with a civilized person after what feels like 1,000 years. He sincerely thanks the doctor for listening to his extraordinary experience. The doctor warmly replies that it was his pleasure and expresses gratitude to So for sharing such a remarkable and captivating tale of his 1,000-year adventure as a warrior of the wild. With that, the doctor leaves, reflecting on how interesting of a patient So is. He believes that So possesses a talent for storytelling and envisions a successful future for him as a writer, especially if he were to pen a novel with such vivid and lively descriptions of his experiences. Inside the returnee control department, the lady agent, Swyong Choi, stands in her head's office, expressing doubt about the accuracy of the data regarding So. She suggests that there might be a mistake in the information. The head, sitting on his chair, inquires about the nature of the mistake. Holding a card in her hand, the lady agent, Choi reads that So is classified as an F rank. The head confirms that the data is indeed correct and reveals that So is a rare case as an F-ranked patient. He adds that if So were an E-rank individual, he could have received government pension benefits for being economically disadvantaged. The lady agent elaborates on her concern, pointing out that being an F rank suggests So is an ordinary civilian, making her question how someone with an F rank could pass through a portal. She wonders if there has been some kind of mistake. The head, while tapping on his tablet screen, responds that it's a possibility, but also rare, as sometimes return stones are discovered by returnees accidentally while in hiding or in other unforeseen circumstances. He displays a note he received from the doctor, indicating that So has been diagnosed with PTSD and exhibits symptoms of mental disorder, occasional wolf-like behavior, and being trapped in a vivid imaginative world, mistaking it for reality. The term wolfish behavior piques the lady agent's interest, triggering a recollection of the moment when So roared at her during their encounter. She contemplates whether she may have misunderstood. Seeking clarification, she asks her head if this is the file of the returnee named So Park. The head confirms her suspicion, stating that despite So being an F rank, he is indeed a returnee, and they must follow the established procedures accordingly. The lady agent holds the file firmly and asserts that she will personally deliver it to So. The head, intrigued by her decision, inquires about the reason for her insistence on delivering the file herself. She responds, explaining that she wants to see So's reaction and verify the information firsthand. The head appears puzzled by her request and wonders what could be driving her to take this matter so personally. After spending 2 weeks back on Earth, following his 1,000-year adventure in another world, So lies on his hospital bed, feeling overwhelmed by the unfamiliarity of his surroundings. He contemplates what he should do next, as returning to his old life now seems like a formidable challenge. Just then, a nurse enters his room with a tray, offering him a morning greeting and his meal. So's hunger takes over, and he starts devouring the food hungrily, almost like an animal. In the midst of his meal, Lady Agent Choi enters the room and confirms if he is So Park. She is surprised by his eating manner but manages to introduce herself as Swayong Choi from the Returnee Control Department. As So sniffs the air, her smell and blonde hair trigger a sense of familiarity. Curious, he gets down from his bed, sits like a wolf beside Miss Choi, and sniffs her, trying to remember. Miss Choi reminds him that she was the first person he saw when he returned, and he realizes her identity. Miss Choi recalls how So appeared like an absolute predator the moment he stepped out of the portal, and observes him as he goes back to his meal, licking the plate and expressing his satisfaction. She can't help but wonder if she has lost her touch in dealing with returnees like So. So, with his arms folded in front of his chest, questions Choi about the purpose of the Returnee Control Department. Choi sits down beside him on the bed and teases him for being so demanding at a young age. So corrects her, stating that he is actually over 1,000 years old. Choi realizes So is indeed a patient. She then slides an information sheet and a pen in front of So, explaining that the Returnee Control Department is a state institution that assists returnees like him in reintegrating into society. The sheet contains essential information that returnees must review thoroughly. Choi advises him to check the information sharing agreement box on each page and then sign it. So curiously picks up the pen and starts sniffing it, remarking that it's been so long since he has seen one of these. He muses about how humans still use pens after 1,000 years. Confused by So's behavior, Choi asks him why he is sniffing everything. So, still adjusting to modern-day objects, starts scribbling on the sheet. Choi urges him to stop drawing and just sign the document. Apologetically, So explains that it has been 1,000 years since he encountered such items. Despite Choi's efforts to guide him, So struggles to understand where to check or sign on the sheet. She wonders if he's a caveman or something and helps him to check and sign, but he still ends up scribbling. Growing annoyed, Choi labels him a complete bird brain for his strange behavior. In a fit of frustration, Choi confronts Soho, asking if he took art lessons while he was away, as his doodling of a perfect wolf on the sheet surprises her. So calmly informs her that he had this artistic skill even before he left Earth. Curious, Choi inquires if he learned anything else during his time away, such as magic, enchantment, or martial arts. So replies that he lived in a forest, so there was nothing like that to learn, and his main focus was on surviving. Before So can elaborate further, Choi interrupts, summarizing that he spent 10 years running for his life. So remains silent, not disputing her assumption. Choi then shares the information that to become a truly awakened returnee capable of passing through portals, one must kill a monster and absorb its dimensional energy. However, in So's case, it seems like he simply survived in a peaceful dimension and got lucky by finding a return stone to pass through the portal. She now believes that she was mistaken about him. So corrects her, revealing that he wasn't in the jungle for just 10 years, but rather, he spent 1,000 years there. Choi, feeling irritated, tells him to stop as he's really getting on her nerves with his statements. Upon So's claim of spending 1,000 years in the forest, Choi firmly corrects him, stating that it was only 10 years, not 1,000. So appears puzzled by this revelation. She urges him to check his records, which clearly indicate the timeline of his disappearance and return. According to the records, Soho went missing in 2015 and returned through the portal in 2025. So checks the records and is surprised to find that it's true. Only 10 years have passed since his disappearance. Choi then hands So his returnee identification card, explaining that it is meant to cover his hospital fees, and he must report immediately if he loses it. As she prepares to leave, Choi advises So to read through the document thoroughly, ensuring that he understands all the information provided. Choi advises So to return to his family once he is well, and this surprising news fills him with hope that his family might still be alive. During his time in the woods, So lost all hope, believing that if he returned to Earth, his family and friends would no longer be alive. When he finally returned, he had to face the painful truth that he had also lost his forest family, with whom he spent 1,000 years. However, to his shock, he learns from the report that only 10 years have passed since the day he disappeared from this world. He discovers that his mom and dad passed away due to a dungeon break on the same day, leaving him wondering about Geno's fate. Filled with hope once again, So stands up and rushes out of the room, determined to find his doctor. As he hurriedly bumps into people passing by, nurses warn him that he cannot simply burst into places like that. Entering his doctor's clinic, So is followed by the nurse, who insists that he cannot just barge in like that. The doctor recognizes Soho and inquires about the reason for his visit. So explains that he needs the doctor's help because he believes his brother is still alive and he wants to find him. He requests the doctor to sign his release form so he can start his search. However, the doctor expresses concern, stating that he doesn't believe So is fully ready to reintegrate into society. He suggests that So waits at the hospital while they try to determine the whereabouts of his brother. So, however, is determined and doesn't see the need to seek the doctor's permission for his actions. Finally, the doctor concedes and lays out one condition for So. Curious, So asks what the condition is, ready to accept whatever terms the doctor might have. So sits in the cab, expressing his gratitude to the doctor for everything, saying he owes him one. The doctor replies that it's no problem and assures So that they will talk again soon. The doctor advises the cab driver to be cautious, as So hasn't fully recovered yet, and then they leave. Back in the doctor's office, the doctor's assistant, still puzzled by the doctor's actions, asks him why he went to the extent of paying for So's hospital bills, buying him clothes, and giving him money. She cannot understand the reason behind his unexpected generosity towards So, especially considering that F-ranked returnees are typically overlooked by the returning control department. She also mentions So's habit of calling the doctor Baldy. The doctor simply replies that he is interested in hearing more of So's stories. The assistant nurse seems shocked, questioning if the doctor really wants to hear more of what she calls nonsense. Instead of directly answering, the doctor asked her to have someone fix the broken door handle, which So had broken during his visit. The assistant nurse informs him that she has already put in a request for the repair and notices the handle's significant damage caused by So's extreme force. Sitting back in his chair, the doctor contemplates that this is the second time the door handle has broken like that, hinting that So's presence has brought something irregular to the doctor's life. Amidst the chaotic traffic and incessant honking, the cab speeds ahead. Inside the cab, the LED screen displays breaking news. It reports a time miscalculation during a dungeon portal break. leading to a flood of monsters escaping into an unprotected field near Hongqian in Gangwon Province at 3 p.m. today. In response, the Ministry of National Defense urgently deployed tank and aviation battalions, managing to bring the situation under control within 50 minutes. However, the army suffered some damage, including the destruction of 2 tanks and a total of 12 casualties among the hunters and soldiers on site. The news channel promises to provide updates as they gather additional information. Following that, an advertisement appears about the Supernatural Power Fighting Championship, announcing an intense clash between world-class S-ranked superheroes. The SPF Championship, ranked 34th globally, features the formidable Russian brown bear, Mikhail Jorvis, competing against his opponent, ranked 48th in the world, known as Beyond Horizon. The cab driver expresses his excitement upon hearing this news. The advertisement continues, revealing that the winner of this match will earn the chance to face the #1 contender. The ad highlights the challenge faced by Flame Hero Horizon as he confronts the formidable Russian brown bear, who has triumphed in 7 consecutive matches. As the ad concludes, So recalls what his doctor had mentioned earlier. He told Soho that the world has undergone significant changes, transforming into an entirely different place after the catastrophe. Another advertisement then appears, encouraging individuals to become hunters and join the Shilla Guild, the 4th-ranked guild in Korea, offering remarkable hunting dividends. The cab driver remarks to So that he could have been earning big bucks hunting in the field if he were a hunter instead of driving a cab. Intrigued by the mention of a hunting field, So asks the cab driver if there is a hunting field in Seoul. The driver clicks his tongue in disappointment upon hearing the question, thinking that So must have suffered a serious head injury. He is surprised that So seems unaware of the hunting field. So leans forward from the back seat and insists that the driver explain what the hunting field is. The driver, with a hint of exasperation, agrees to tell him since he doesn't have much else to do at the moment. The driver begins by explaining that 10 years ago, portals to other worlds opened not only in Korea but worldwide. This event is referred to as the Day of the Catastrophe, which marked the first clash of dimensions, resulting in an invasion of monsters on Earth. Around 10% of the world's population was lost that day. Since then, monsters have appeared all over the world, overwhelming conventional military forces. As a result, hunters were recruited to fight these monsters in places where regular military forces couldn't reach. The driver further informs Soho that those who disappeared during the catastrophe but returned to Earth, known as returnees, were granted a hunter's license, allowing them to hunt monsters. After obtaining the license, many formed guilds, and now Earth has become a place for them to earn money by hunting monsters in fields or near portals. Some of these monsters are even worth a significant amount of money, such as 2 million Korean currency, approximately 2,000 USD. Curious, So asks the driver how one can become a hunter. The driver, somewhat surprised by So's seriousness, explains that it is not an easy task for commoners like them. First, one must awaken their abilities, then they need to visit the RCD and pass the hunter exam. So realizes that there is a test involved and finds the process rather complicated. They finally reach their destination, and the driver stops the cab. He points out the 2-story red brick house in front of them, which is the address he was given. The driver wishes So well and hopes he will have a good time with his brother. So thanks him and steps out of the cab. As So approaches the house, an old lady cleaning the glass window on the upper floor notices him and asks who he is. So explains that he has come to see Jenho. The old lady finds So's speech rude, considering his young age, and scolds him, claiming that no one by that name lives there. She then tells him to leave and slams the window shut. So starts to wonder if he came to the wrong house. Inside the house, the old lady continues to complain, and her grandchild asks if the scary men are here again. The old lady reassures her grandchild that it's not the case and comforts her. Overhearing their conversation, So realizes that Jenho Park, his brother and the grandchild's father, works tirelessly but is still burdened with debt. So checks the mail at the door, confirming that it is indeed Jenho's residence. He walks away, contemplating the complexities of the world he returned to. In the wild, strength reigns supreme, but in this civilized world, money holds immense power, simplifying the complexity of life's laws. At the RCD office, So receives his returnee ID from a lady officer who informs him that his request to take the hunter's exam has been rejected due to not meeting the qualifications. Perplexed, So asks why, as he is an F-rank returnee. The lady officer explains that although he holds an F rank, he is just shy of 4 returnee ranking points. So double-checks the report and disputes her statement, explaining that he arrived here only 2 weeks ago through a portal. The lady officer scoffs at this, claiming that civilians cannot survive portal passage, they would be torn to shreds. So argues that he did feel the pain during his portal journey, but the lady officer cuts him off, mocking him and suggesting he's envisioning himself as some kind of Hulk. She advises him to daydream at home and recommends either signing up for an Awakening Academy or increasing his ranking points before attempting to reapply. As he's leaving the RCV office, So notices an advertisement posted outside, offering to kill Goblin at Suwon Field and get paid 500 USD per Goblin. This leaves him perplexed about the system in place. Nevertheless, he decides to book a cab and head to Suwon Field. During the journey, So curiously asks the cab driver about the length of the barrier. The driver explains that the barrier encircles all of Seoul and suggests that Solo can view it on the map app. Surprised, the driver asks if So hasn't downloaded the app yet, considering Seoul is divided into 12 districts, with over 100 gates connecting them, and numerous outer gates connecting to the field. Realizing that he needs a phone to navigate properly, So acknowledges the importance of getting one. The cab arrives at Suwon Field Gate 27 and screeches to a halt. So steps out of the cab. Observing the entrance, So sees an underdeveloped building with a gate and assumes that there must be a hunting field behind it. With his hands in his jeans pockets, he takes a step forward. 2 sergeants, dressed in uniforms, stand outside the entrance and inquire about the purpose of his visit. So replies that he is there for hunting, but when asked for his hunter's ID, he admits he doesn't have one. The other sergeant informs him that civilians are not allowed to enter. Suddenly, they hear a car approaching at high speed. The sergeants try to close the gate, but it's too late. A monster is riding the car. One of the sergeants speaks into his telecom, summoning Squad 5 to take action. The car crashes into a container, and all the armed officers gather around it. The monster emerges from the wreckage, prompting them to open fire. Once they believe the threat is neutralized, the head officer orders them to cease fire, stating that the situation is under control and the enemy has been eliminated. Someone calls for an ambulance. Amidst the chaos, one sergeant notices that So has vanished and asks the other sergeant where he went. They glance back at the entrance, speculating that So got scared and ran off. But So is busy in exploring the field. He senses a familiar smell and sound nearby, piquing his curiosity. He climbs on top of a wooden pile to get a better view of the surroundings. From his vantage point, he observes the destruction that stretches as far as the eye can see, making him wonder if this is the fate that befell all cities except Seoul. Darkness engulfs everything, a darkness that So is all too familiar with. Taking a step forward, So takes a sniff of the air, indicating that it's time for him to hunt. With a powerful leap, lands gracefully on the ground as a wolf. Despite feeling a bit stiff, he takes off running, leaping, and even scaling a building effortlessly without any assistance. Reaching the rooftop, So takes a moment to catch his breath, pondering if these are the after effects, as he senses a slight lack of power within him. Standing at the edge of the rooftop, with the bright full moon shining on his back, So surveys the area to determine where to begin his hunt. He leaps down and approaches a street where a group of monsters is viciously attacking a wounded white wolf, causing it to bleed profusely. So hesitates for a moment, contemplating whether to intervene and help the injured wolf. However, he soon decides that these monsters are now his prey, and he lunges into action, engaging them in a fierce battle. As So focuses on fighting the monsters, strange notifications appear before him in thin air. The first notification reads, "Searching for class," leaving him puzzled about its meaning. Another notification pops up stating, "System error," further adding to his confusion. Meanwhile, a third notification follows, indicating class already exists. So is taken aback by these cryptic messages and wonders what on earth is happening. As So battles the monsters, he is bombarded with persistent notifications, appearing one after another. Growing increasingly frustrated, he demands the notifications to disappear so he can concentrate on the fight. Despite his annoyance, he skillfully handles the monsters, easily taking down one of them with his agility. However, the notifications persist and now provide more specific details about the errors. One notification mentions a passing on Druid error, indicating a failure to initialize certain stats related to the Druid class. Another notification states a failure to obtain class skill, and a third one declares a critical error. So tries to recall a time 100 years ago when he rarely received stat increase alerts, especially after exceeding the maximum strength limit. He reflects that back then when he was in the forest, status windows didn't pop up, which is very different from what he's experiencing now on Earth. Amidst the confusion, So wonders if the system error is causing his stats to be lower on Earth than he expects. In a sudden flash, another notification appears, displaying the messages Authorization Obtained and Performance Store Open. So finds this new message about the Performance Store unfamiliar, making him wonder if this is what they mean by awakening. The notification shows him his available points, which are 007p, just enough to purchase a water bottle and some bread. So feels disappointed, questioning if these are the only items he can buy with such a limited number of points. As So contemplates his options, he is distracted by the sound of whining and whimpering. He turns around and spots a white wolf cub beside its dying mother, crying in distress. He approaches them, sitting near the mother wolf, and gently pats her, wondering if they were attacked using poison. The mother wolf, in her language, communicates with So, and he understands her words. In response, So tells her that he never promised to take care of her cub, so she shouldn't feel relieved about it. The mother wolf whimpers in pain and sadness. Despite his initial response, So looks at the innocent little cub, frightened and helpless near its mother, and feels pity for it. He contemplates the fate that has befallen them. So decides to give his bread to the cub, providing some comfort to the scared creature. Before he walks away to assess the aftermath of the battle, he counts 7 dead monsters lying around him, making him realize the importance of acquiring a car. The next morning, So wakes up to the bright sun and the cheerful sounds of birds singing. He finds himself under a tree, with the wolf cub comfortably resting on his stomach. He affectionately pats the cub and suggests that they should get going. At the exit of Gate 27 in the hunting field, a sergeant stands watchful, ensuring that every car maintains a safe distance and advising the drivers to stop by the disinfection station before leaving. The impatient drivers honk their horns, urging for a faster departure. Suddenly, everyone's attention is drawn to a sight in the distance. To their astonishment, it's So with all 7 monsters he had killed the previous day tied to his back. He carries them effortlessly, with the wolf cub walking alongside him. The drivers are impressed by So's skill and determination to hunt all those monsters on his own. Inside the RCV office, So stands before the lady officer as she informs him of his earnings from his recent hunt. For 7 goblins, he receives 351, and for 3 bloodstones, he gets 61. However, after deducting 201 for disinfection, dog vaccination, and vitamins, he is left with a total of 2.1 million won. Curious about bloodstones, So asks the lady officer for more information. She picks up a red stone and explains that they are extracted from goblin hearts and their value varies based on the amount of energy stored within them. She mentions that a stone of this size can fetch around 200,000 won. As So doesn't have an account, she pays him in cash and hands him 50,000 won as a portion of his earnings. Encouraging So, the lady officer suggests that he should register as a hunter since he possesses the necessary skills. This way, it would be more convenient for him to hunt, and he could potentially earn even more money. Holding the money in his hand, So realizes that by registering and exploring dungeons as a hunter, he has the potential to amass great wealth in the future. Jeno parks his truck at a convenience store where he is greeted by an old cashier. The cashier inquires about Jeno's whereabouts, to which Jeno reveals that he has recently taken up truck driving as his occupation. The cashier expresses happiness upon hearing the news, mentioning that he is relieved Jeno found a job after struggling financially for some time. Jeno acknowledges that the job has its dangers, especially driving into the field, but the pay is much better than what he could earn in the city. In a kind gesture, the cashier hands Jeno a bar of chocolate, saying it's Jionu's favorite. Jeno appreciates the gesture and decides to take a bottle of soju as well. Leaving the convenience store, Jeno hums a tune while driving. Upon reaching his destination, Jeno gets out of his truck, but he is suddenly confronted by a group of people who attack him without warning. They punch him, causing Jeno to fall on his back, dropping the soju bottle and the chocolate bar, which shatter upon impact. One of the men, holding a rod, reveals that he thought Jenho had left his child behind and disappeared, causing him to be scared for a while. Jenho, lying on the ground, blood rushing through his head, gets beaten up even more by these assailants. The man with the rod taps Jenho's shoulder and comments that he seems to be doing much better now. He inquires if Jenho has any idea how many times he has come searching for him, then proceeds to deliver another painful blow with the rod. Jenho sincerely apologizes to the men, explaining that he has been trying to make money in the field. He then hands them 2.4 million won and assures them that it should cover the principal amount and all the interest for the month. He apologizes once more, expressing remorse for the situation. Sitting on the stairs in front of Jenho, the man with the rod receives the money and starts counting it. As he calculates, he realizes that the amount falls short of their expectations. He lists the expenses, including 161 for the principal, 121 in late interest, travel expenses for the 4 days he had to come by, and even dry cleaning fees. The man doesn't believe that this amount will be sufficient to settle the debt. Kneeling in front of the man, Jenho trembles in fear and continues to apologize, his forehead still bleeding. He desperately promises to come up with the remaining amount within 3 days. However, the man strikes him again with the rod, expressing his frustration and emphasizing the exorbitant interest for just 3 days. Jenho, in pain, acknowledges that he understands the severity of the situation. As the man with the rod prepares to strike Jenho again, his words are cut short by a call for Jenho. Everyone turns their attention towards the source of the voice, and to their surprise, it's So walking towards them with his cub wolf by his side. Confused and taken aback, the man with the rod demands to know who this newcomer is. Meanwhile, Jenho, trembling with fear and uncertainty, wonders if the person approaching them is indeed So. Jenho looks at So in disbelief, his mind filled with memories from the past. He recalls a time when he was bullied by seniors who demanded money from him. Jenho had called for So's help, but So seemed unbothered and simply cleared his trash bags before leaving Jenho to get beaten up. The bullies mocked Jenho, questioning if So was really his brother. These memories make Jenho realize that his brother was never supportive or helpful in his life. As he continues to reflect, Jenho remembers watching the news about the series of explosions in Seogyo, Mapo district, and how unidentified creatures had been spotted from the Crimson Domes along with the explosions. The situation was dire, and Jenho was sitting in front of the TV absorbing the alarming news. As the doorbell rings, Jenho rushes to the door with the hope of seeing his mom and dad standing there, but instead, he finds his auntie and uncle. They express relief at finding Jenho safe and explain that they haven't been able to contact his parents. They urgently inform Jenho that they need to evacuate immediately and that he should gather his belongings. Before Jenho can answer their question about So's whereabouts, a sudden blast rocks the area, sending Jenho flying back into his home. His aunt and uncle are caught in the explosion outside. Amid the chaos, a massive monster appears, peering into Jenho's home with its one large eye, before quickly disappearing. In the past, Jenho had little regard for So, believing that his brother held no significance in his life. However, now with So suddenly appearing in front of him after he was getting beaten up, Jenho starts to see things differently. So, with a hint of pride in his voice, remarks to Jenho that he has grown up so fast. Jenho, still bleeding from the earlier beating, expresses his surprise at seeing So alive and asks how it is possible. The man with the rod interrupts, wondering if he knocked the sense out of Jenho, and questions whether the boy standing before them is really Jenho's elder brother, pointing the rod menacingly at So. Fueled by anger, So acts swiftly and forcefully, grabbing the man's head and slamming him down. He collapses against the wall and falls to the ground. The other men become worried about their injured boss, while Jenho checks on So to make sure he is okay. One of the remaining men tries to attack So from behind by kicking him while he sits on the ground next to Jenho. However, So remains unbothered by the attack, and to everyone's horror, the man's leg appears distorted, causing him to scream in agony. The last man left standing wonders if Jenho is a hunter, showing some fear. However, he quickly apologizes, claiming that he didn't physically harm So's brother and attempted to stop the others from attacking him. So places some cash on the ground and instructs the man to take the money and leave. With the altercation settled, So and Jenho stand up and walk away from the scene. The man picks up the money and expresses his gratitude. When Jinho and So finally reach home at night with the wolf cub, they are greeted by the old lady. She questions Jinho about whether So is truly his brother, and Jinho confirms that he is indeed his brother. Soho then shows the grandma a black shopper, explaining that he bought some meat. The grandma takes the shopper from him, remarking that during their last meeting, So should have revealed his relationship with Jinho. She invites them inside, informing them that Jionu, Jinho's son, fell asleep while waiting for his father. Inside, the wolf cub whimpers near Jionu, who is sleeping on the floor. So sits beside Jionu and inquires if he is Jinho's son. Jinho confirms that Jionu is his one and only treasure. Soho then asks about Jionu's mother, and Jinho explains that she left them. The wolf cub licks Jionu's head tenderly. Jinho admits that he cannot blame his wife for leaving, as he feels responsible for his own shortcomings. So suggests they have a drink, seeking to ease the tension and bring some comfort in this difficult situation. As they click their glasses together, Jinho expresses his relief at finding So alive after he went missing. He marvels at So's unchanged appearance and the fact that he has returned as a hunter. So then inquires about the amount Jinho owes, and Jinho reveals that it's about 50 million won. However, he reassures Soho that it's all right now, as he has found a job and can work to pay it all back. Curious about Jinho's job, Soho learns that he is involved in long-distance transporting between cities, which is a dangerous occupation but pays well due to its high demand and risk. Jinho explains that the truck he uses belonged to the old lady's son, who unfortunately didn't survive the catastrophe. Now, the old lady takes care of Jinho and Jionu like her own family and has become their savior in many ways. As the conversation continues, Jionu wakes up from his sleep, drawn by the constant licking of the cub. He looks at the cub curiously and wonders if it's a puppy. Jinho picks up the cub, and Jionu joins his dad and Soho, asking about the identity of the stranger. Jinho introduces So as his uncle, and Jionu greets him warmly. He asks if he can play with the puppy, to which So agrees with a smile. Jionu happily engages with the cub, and Jinho tells So that Jionu always wanted a puppy, making this encounter all the more special for the young boy. So proposes that they work together, with So doing all the work while Jinho assists him with his truck. Jinho inquires about the nature of the work, and So reveals that it involves monster hunting, which comes as a surprise to Jinho. Inside RCD, the lady officer congratulates So on registering as a returnee and successfully increasing his stats in just one day. He is now an F-ranked druid, allowing him to open an account and conduct credit transactions with his card. As a congratulatory gift, she offers him a phone, which is commonly given to newly registered returnees. The phone comes with the Returnee Control Department's app, providing access to test schedules and hunting field information. So takes the phone and checks it out, listening intently as the officer explains that once he hunts monsters and accumulates dimensional energy, his rank will be upgraded to E, and he will receive various benefits, including a pension. The officer advises him to continue progressing and contributing to society by protecting its citizens. Curious, the officer asks if So knows how to open his status window, but So remains silent as he is unfamiliar with the process. The officer explains that due to a system error, their interface has been restricted, affecting their ability to access certain features. As the system window appears in front of So, he is taken aback by its sudden appearance. On the screen, he sees his detailed stats, and to his surprise, they are quite low. It becomes clear to him that these low stats were the reason why he had difficulty leaping far. As Jinho drives around in his car, he receives a call from So and quickly realizes that So must have become a registered returnee since he now has a phone. He congratulates So on this achievement. Jinho further informs So that he will be arriving soon as he has one last delivery to make before joining him. Curious, Jinho asks So if all he needs to do now is pass the hunter exam. However, So replies while walking down the street that they first need to pay off So's debt. Jinho seems confused and expresses concern, mentioning that So is still an F rank, which means handling monsters might be too much for him. However, before Jinho can fully explain his worry, the call is abruptly cut. This leaves Jinho worried and uncertain. The changes he sees in his brother make him question whether So is truly the same person he knew before noticing how much his brother has changed. So walks down the street while tapping on his phone, looking for monster bounties. He discovers that Namyangju Gate is the closest option. As he arrives at the gate entrance, he is met with a heavy rush of traffic, making him wonder if there will be any monsters left at this rate. Inside one of the cars waiting at the gate, 5 people are seated. The driver looks back at the 3 individuals in the back seats, who appear tense. He reassures them that they don't need to worry as they are all returnees. He reminds them that once they pass the dungeon test, they will become official members of the Shilla Guild. The girl sitting between 2 boys expresses her determination to do her best. However, the person seated in the passenger seat beside the driver dismisses them as losers, believing they lack the required talent and only got in due to their parents' influence, intending to profit from their pension. This passenger, seemingly the leader of the group, is unimpressed with their new recruits' abilities. As the sergeants at the entry call out for the next car to enter, they are surprised to see a lone man on foot, Seo, approaching. The sergeants inquire if he is alone, and Seo confirms it. They then ask him to insert his returnee identification card for verification in the machine. As Seo slides his card, the sergeant at the gate reads the screen and recognizes him as F-ranked materialization Seo Park. The sergeant informs Seo that he is limited to the field and should avoid entering the dungeon. Meanwhile, the leader inside the car notices Seo entering the area alone. Curious and concerned about Seo's safety, the sergeant at the gate asks his fellow sergeant if he thinks Seo will be okay, especially since he doesn't have any gear with him. The fellow sergeant reassures him, mentioning that Seo single-handedly caught 7 goblins at Gate 27 just yesterday. Inside the car, the occupants discuss Seo's bold decision to enter the field without any weapons or tools. They are impressed by his fearlessness, with the leader acknowledging that it takes guts to venture into the field unarmed. After resolving a system error that caused a delay at the entrance, the driver sets off to follow Seo, but they quickly lose sight of him. Confused about where he went, they wonder how he managed to disappear when they were right behind him. Despite losing track of Seo, the leader senses that there is something special about him. As Seo marches on, he eventually gets tired and decides to take a break to catch his breath. During this moment of rest, he realizes that he has become weaker and considers the need to start training to improve his abilities. Suddenly, he hears noises of clanking and banging nearby and wonders if it's a sword fight taking place. Curious, he goes to investigate and indeed finds a battle between civilized returnees unfolding before him. This excites Seo, as it's a rare opportunity to witness a fight between fellow returnees instead of just battling animals. He positions himself at a distance, standing at the top, to observe the clash down below. In the midst of the confrontation, one returnee injures another with a sword, causing harm to his arm. The sergeants, concerned about the situation, gather around and reprimand them, urging them to stop their reckless behavior. The sergeants threaten to let them all out alive if they drop their weapons and desist from fighting further. Seeing the returnee in pain due to his injured arm, Seo deduces that they are no longer interested in continuing the fight. A car stops nearby. A man named Gusik Choi gets out and questions the sergeants about why they are wasting time dealing with the fighting returnees. He dismisses them as losers and points out that they are only 3 in number, questioning the delay. Gusik Choi, the man who carries a bounty of 4,000, catches Seo's attention as he was leaving the scene. The mention of the bounty amount piques Seo's interest, causing him to stop and listen more closely. The other returnees become terrified upon Gusik's arrival, and his men boast that all of them will now face their demise. Gusik taunts them by announcing himself as the man with the fork bounty on his head, daring them to come and try to capture him. The returnees are filled with fear and dread, realizing they have encountered Gusik Choi, a notorious figure with a significant bounty on his head. They wonder why they had to cross paths with him out of all people. As the returnees hold their bloody swords, they try to negotiate with Gusik, asking if they give him everything, will he let them go? However, Gusik dismisses the idea, finding no fun in such a proposition, and begins marching towards them. Amidst the tense situation, one of the terrified returnees pleads with Gusik, questioning why he is persisting when they had already agreed to give him everything. In that moment, Seo suddenly jumps and lands between the returnees and Gusik, surprising both parties. Gusik's men are perplexed, wondering who this unknown man is and how he appeared out of nowhere. As Seo confidently steps forward towards Gusik, the notorious figure feels a bit unnerved, questioning who this newcomer is and where he came from. With determination in his eyes, Soo addresses Gusik, asking if he said 4,000. Gusik demands to know who Soo is, and Soo calmly responds that he is someone in need of money. As Soo confidently stands before Gusik, Gusik's men are puzzled and consider him to be reckless or even foolish, wondering if he has a death wish. Gusik himself laughs openly at Soo's audacity and taunts him, suggesting that he doesn't appear to be from the Returnee Control Department. Gusik advises Soo to have simply continued on his way, but then he suddenly unleashes a red beam through his eye, which hits Soo. In an instant, Soo finds himself frozen in place, unable to move or react. The other returnees are also taken aback, surprised by the sudden turn of events. As Gusik explains that Soo's extended eye contact has rendered him immobile, Soo finds himself trapped and unable to move due to Gusik's powerful ability. Gusik then orders his men to take Soo away, but before they can act, Soo unexpectedly breaks free from his immobilized state and smacks Gusik's face, stunning both the men and the returnees present. The returnees are amazed and surprised by Soo's sudden movement, having believed he was incapacitated. However, Soo doesn't stop there. He confronts Gusik and inquires about the nature of his magical ability to freeze him, finding it interesting. Showing no fear, Soo lands another punch on Gusik's face. Soo's display of courage and resilience with his eyes burning blue now leaves everyone curious. As Soo attempts to attack Gusik, the latter uses his power to freeze Soo in place with a single command, restrain. Gusik boasts about his tricks, warning Soo that he picked the wrong person to mess with. However, Soo swiftly counters with a knee strike that causes Gusik to bleed from his nose when he brings out his sword. Taunting Gusik, Soo questions if he has any other tricks besides restraining. Before Gusik can utter the word restrain again, Soo lands another punch on his face. Seizing the opportunity, Soo grabs Gusik, swiftly maneuvers him, and hurls him into a glass wall, shattering it. Disappointed with Gusik's performance, Soo remarks, "Such a letdown." The returnees are in shock witnessing how effortlessly Soo took down Gusik. They are left wondering about Soo's identity and abilities. Soo then turns his attention to Gusik's men, who are holding their swords. He challenges them, asking if they also want to fight. However, they quickly back down, not willing to take on Soo's abilities. Soo orders them to gather together, and they obediently dash towards the location he points at and form a group. Soo then inquires if anyone among them has a rope. One of the returnees responds affirmatively, confirming that they have one. Curiously, Soo asks them what the bounty is for people like them. They admit that there is no bounty on any of them. Only Gusik has a price on his head. Tearfully, they explained that they had no other option but to comply with Gusik's demands as he had threatened them. The returnees advise Soo that he stands to make a considerable amount of money by capturing Gusik. Gusik lies on the floor, firmly tied with ropes, blood still flowing from his nose. Hearing his men's mean-spirited advice to Soo, disappointment fills his eyes, realizing that the traitors around him were only seeking personal benefits from his presence. Soo gazes at Gusik and questions if he is awake from his unconscious state. Gusik's men express their hope that he rots in hell. Observing Gusik's men, Soo wonders if they are truly worthless to him. The returnees standing beside Soo inform him that Gusik's men are not to be trusted, as they are all criminals. They assure Soo that he will certainly be rewarded for bringing them in. Gusik's men vehemently deny this, claiming they are truly of no use. Gusik, still lying on the floor and tightly tied, calls out to Soo and asks if he's not tired of abiding by the city's laws. Confused, Soo looks at him and Gusik continues, telling him that this place is the true land of freedom, where Soo can live like a king if Gusik sets him free. Soo brushes off Gusik's offer, swooshing his foot on Gusik's head and telling him to go back to sleep. Gusik's face bears the imprint of Soo's shoe. Turning his attention back to Gusik's men, Soo asks the returnees if these men are all worth something. A returnee confirms that most of them are criminals, which terrifies and disappoints Gusik's men. Soo wonders how he is supposed to bring them all in, and the returnees offer their help, mentioning that they have a car. Soo likes the idea and agrees. They all plead with Soo, claiming their innocence, but he still loads them into the car and drives away. The returnee driving the car thanks Soo for saving their lives, but Soo dismisses it, stating he wasn't trying to help. Despite that, they express gratitude because they owe their lives to him and consider him their savior. Soo then asks returnee about his powers. The returnee explains that he possesses swordsmanship, tracking, and hunting skills. So inquires if it is possible for a person to possess 3 skills. He tells yes as he acquired the tracking and hunting skills through skill books after awakening with swordsmanship as his initial skill. So realizes that one can learn additional skills through skill books, which surprises the returnee who wonders why Soho doesn't know about them. As they drive, Soho decides that he needs to acquire some combat skills through skill books. He looks up through the car's windshield and notices they have reached the portal. The returnee informs him that it's a level 1 dungeon, the lowest level. So realizes that he would have checked it out if he had a hunter's license, surprising the returnee that So doesn't have one. When a portal opens, the military takes the lead in securing it, and any monsters encountered by hunters are typically weak and easy to defeat. In a low-level field, like the one with a level 1 dungeon portal they are currently near, hunters can only gain enough experience to reach up to E rank. To progress further and level up, hunters must capture stronger monsters and absorb their dimensional energy, which is only possible in level 2 dungeons. However, the returnee is puzzled about how So, who hasn't even been to a level 1 dungeon, managed to defeat Gisik Choi, who holds the rank of C. So notices the confusion on the returnee's face and inquires about it. Curious, the returnee asks So if he minds sharing his own rank. So reveals that his rank is F. This revelation astonishes the returnee to the extent that he unintentionally mismanages the car, almost driving it off a cliff. So swiftly warns him to be careful. With a moment of respite, So then makes a request to the returnee, seeking a favor from him. The group of 5 individuals who were in the car at the entrance gate now appears, visibly injured. Their leader takes the lead, while 3 of the returnees walk in a miserable state beside him. The man who was driving the car earlier provides support to one of the injured returnees, as he is unable to walk by himself. A medic approaches them to offer assistance. The leader expresses frustration, questioning whether hunters' licenses are now being handed out for free. He is convinced that the interviewer who recruited these inexperienced individuals must be responsible for this situation. However, his partner advises him to relax, explaining that he understands the behavior of today's youth and is also aware of their guild's current situation. The leader becomes aware that privileged individuals, particularly those who come from wealthy backgrounds, have an advantage in awakening their powers. They are taught how to stab monsters by practicing on real ones. All they have to do is successfully stab a monster that a broker has captured, and then they can simply hire experienced hunters to guide them. After this process, they are granted official admission into a guild and are allowed to embark on missions. However, their lack of experience often leads to failure during monster encounters, leaving their teammates to compensate for their shortcomings. The leader's partner, who was driving the car earlier, suggests that they forget about the issue and go grab a drink to ease the tension. The leader expresses curiosity about the commotion around the level 1 dungeon, especially since it is about to disappear. The captain, intrigued by the situation, requests a situation report, SITREP, from a sergeant. Addressing him respectfully as captain, the sergeant begins by informing him that 10 individuals have been apprehended. The captain inquires if they are vandals, and the sergeant confirms this, mentioning that among them is a C-rank hunter named Gisik Choi. The captain is taken aback, assuming that a high-ranking hunter might have emerged to knock down Gisik. However, the sergeant clarifies that the individual who defeated the infamous vandal Gisik is, in fact, an F-rank rookie with no license. This revelation leaves the captain astonished, questioning how such a feat is even possible. The sergeant shares that, according to witnesses, the rookie managed to incapacitate Gisik with just a few blows. The captain is left puzzled by this incredible turn of events. Sergeant further explains that Gisik was carried over to the medic, his face mangled with a broken nose, crushed cheekbones, and shattered ribs. Hearing that, captain's memory is triggered, recalling the loner he had observed at the entrance earlier. Intrigued by the connection, he inquires about the whereabouts of the loner. The sergeant reveals that the loner, So, had gone through the portal not too long ago. Captivated by the potential significance of this information, the captain decides to investigate further and marches purposefully towards somewhere. Confused, his partner asks him where he is going, to which the captain explains that he needs to see the situation with his own eyes. The enormity of the implications, if the sergeant's accounts hold true, dawns on the captain, and he is eager to verify the truth behind this extraordinary occurrence. Captain Kang rushes toward the officers, catching them by surprise. An officer asks what's going on, and the captain immediately inquires about So, questioning whether he just went through the portal and which door he used. Meanwhile, So and the returnee step into the portal while donning special jackets. So is taken aback as he realizes that being inside the portal doesn't hurt, and his clothes remain intact. The returnee explains that passing through the portal requires wearing a suit made of material infused with dimensional energy, which their outfits are made of. He further adds that although the outfits may not seem significant, they cost a whopping 2 million won. So's attention is drawn to a translucent cube-like structure in front of him, and he asks what it is. The returnee clarifies that it is what they call a door. The portal they use to enter is known as the door portal, containing 38 dungeons accessible through various doors. They arrived at Dungeon 24 through this specific door. However, the door suddenly vanishes, leaving them inside. The returnee explains to So that the door will reopen once they successfully clear the dungeon. Curious, So asks the returnee what it means to clear the dungeon. Does it entail defeating all the creatures within it? The returnee clarifies that he only needs to capture the strongest monster present. Feeling determined, So thanks the returnee and assures him that he won't be gone for long, asking him to wait there. Before the returnee can get more answers, So leaps and disappears from his sight. The returnee is left wondering about So's identity. He speculates that So might be one of the legendary individuals he has only heard about. Considering So's abilities, defeating a C rank like Gisik, this task is likely a piece of cake for him. He even believes that So may set a record time in clearing the level 1 dungeon. However, the returnee realizes a critical flaw in So's skills. He lacks tracking abilities. If So fails to find the exit within the dungeon in time, he might be trapped inside when the door vanishes after its clearance. The returnee, concerned about So's safety, quickly sets off to find him inside the dungeon. The officer receives a notification indicating that Gate 24 has been closed, and he promptly informs the captain. Upon hearing the news, the captain's expression turns furious and disappointed. So confidently faces 3 formidable monsters and skillfully defeats them. Observing their weapons, he recognizes their potential usefulness and decides to equip himself with one of them. So then uses the weapon to extract a precious bloodstone from another slain monster. The foul odor emanating from the creature prompts him to put on a mask. Holding the bloodstone in his hand, So acknowledges that only one out of the 3 monsters possessed the valuable item, but he remains content as he has already earned a substantial reward. For So, the primary focus is on leveling up and becoming stronger. As the returnee arrives at the scene, he is taken aback by the numerous dead monsters scattered around. Su appears focused on his performance points, which have now reached 102. With this amount, he can purchase 2 skills. After careful consideration, So decides to choose Beast Taming as his first skill, finding it suitable for his current situation. Just as he makes his choice, 2 monsters leap down upon him, but So effortlessly dispatches them as well. His continuous victories boost his performance points to an impressive 545, further enhancing his progress. As So progresses, a critical error notification appears before him, warning about a data clash and additional synchronization that will proceed up to the limit. So becomes puzzled by this unexpected occurrence and wonders what exactly is meant by additional synchronization. However, another notification quickly follows, reassuring him that his stats are still intact. With his performance points now, So decides to select Tree Spirit Summoning as his second skill for 100 points. When he uses this skill, tree spirits manifest and appear before him. It is a unique-looking firefly, and it catches his attention. So realizes that this firefly he had previously seen in the jungle is actually a tree spirit. Mesmerized by the firefly's light radiating in a circle around her, So requests her help in locating the remaining goblins. The tiny tree spirit firefly flitters away, beginning her search. As So continues his journey, he finds that the tree spirit's method of transferring information from the memories of trees and grass is too slow, likely due to his low level. Realizing the need for faster ways to track and search, So decides to invest his remaining points in obtaining the search and track skills. Sitting on the ground, So activates the search skill and discovers that it is a terrain feature. He then uses the track skill and realizes that it pertains to the goblins he had previously killed. While utilizing the skills, He receives information about a creature nearby, which he soon realizes is not a goblin. A smile crosses his face as he moves towards the creature, armed with the weapon he collected from the slain goblins. As So approaches, he finds the returnee entangled in a fierce battle with a deadly monster, on the verge of being overpowered. The returnee is relieved to see So and pleads for his help, as the monster is about to deliver a fatal blow with its weapon. Putting on his mask, So swiftly engages the monster, but it uses a protective shield to defend itself. Despite the challenge, So manages to knock the creature to the ground. The monster tries to retaliate, but So skillfully sends it flying once more. So charges forward, delivering a powerful stab with his weapon, which levels him up and grants him 120 performance points. So recognizes that the current location is a prime spot for accumulating performance points. The message "Level Up" appears in a notification, indicating that So has earned 120 performance points. This leads him to believe that this location is excellent for accumulating points. So notices the returnee sitting some distance away, appearing fearful, and inquires whether the door is about to open. The returnee stammers and assures So that the door should open now. Upon passing through the gate and entering the field, So and the returnee find sergeants standing nearby. One of the sergeants, while looking at So, asks the other if he's the one who caught Gisik earlier. The other confirms and adds that So is the person the captain was searching for and wanted to meet upon his return. The returnee informs So that he must now go and join his own crew, but promises to stay in touch. So expresses his gratitude for the help and the clothes, informing the returnee that he will leave the clothes in the stockroom. Feeling hungry, So enters the stockroom and is greeted by the captain. Curious, So asks the captain about his identity. The captain introduces himself as Minhyuk Kang, the leader of the 27th Battalion in the Shilla Guild. They both sit at a coffee table near the window, enjoying their coffees. The captain hands So his guild's card and invites him to join their guild, emphasizing that they can offer the best environment for his growth. Politely, So declines the offer, stating that he is content with his current situation. The captain becomes visibly annoyed at So's quick refusal to join their guild, and he starts to wonder if So is looking for a better deal elsewhere. He asks So if he has already joined another guild and suggests that if that's the case, their guild can send an official recruitment officer to handle the process. Remaining composed, So clarifies that he hasn't joined any guild yet. The captain proceeds to share that their guild is currently ranked 4th, but he admits that rankings don't hold much significance among the top guilds. He assures So that regardless of any other offers he may receive, they can provide him with top-notch services and support. Setting down his coffee cup, So looks at the captain and explains that it's not that he explains that he just cannot work under someone else. The captain, visibly frustrated, grinds his teeth in response to So's firm stance. So enters his brother Genho's house, only to find it empty. He wonders whether they have not returned yet. Deciding to rest, So lies down on the wooden bed, thinking that Genho and his son must be enjoying some quality father-son time together. As he lies there, Grandma passes by with a tub of clothes on her head and notices So's curious expression. Wondering what he is searching for, she asks him about it. So playfully suggests that Grandma should join him, as the weather is perfect for a nap. Grandma reminds him that she's busy doing laundry and goes to hang the clothes on a rope to dry. So gets up to help her, and Grandma instructs him to ensure the clothes are wrinkle-free, to which So obediently complies. During their interaction, Grandma seems amazed and asks So if he is truly Genho's older brother. So confirms it, and Grandma finds it remarkable, teasingly asking if he ages backward or something. So chuckles and explains to Grandma that his appearance is deceiving, as he is indeed much older than he seems. Grandma seems surprised at first, but then dismisses it, remarking how bizarre and dangerous things are happening in the world nowadays. She comments that unexpected events occur frequently, making the world feel upside down. To her, looking young is no longer a surprising or shocking thing. As they continue talking, Grandma recollects that it has been a decade since So last saw his brother Genho. She offers her heartfelt advice and urges him to be careful not to get hurt and to take good care of himself. So reassures her, saying she shouldn't worry as he's not someone who easily succumbs to danger. However, she dismisses his response as foolish talk, cautioning him that those who believe they are invincible are often the first ones to face unfortunate consequences. When Grandma returns downstairs, she is greeted by Jinho and his son, who is holding the white cub. Jinho inquires about So's whereabouts, and Grandma informs them that he is likely upstairs. Curious, both Jinho and his son, accompanied by the wolf cub, head upstairs to meet So. Upon seeing So, he slides a packet towards Jinho. Puzzled, Jinho asks what it is, and So reveals that it contains 50 million won. He instructs Jinho to use the money to pay off his debt immediately. Once the debt is taken care of, they can all have dinner together tonight. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Jinho expresses his heartfelt thanks to So, feeling unsure of how he will ever be able to repay his brother's generosity. So shifts his attention to Jeonu, who is happily playing with the wolf cub. He encourages Jinho to stop wasting time and proceed to take care of his debt. Jinho, touched by So's generosity, tears up but walks away with the money, ready to fulfill his responsibilities. As Jinho is about to leave, So calls out to him and asks if he has enough money to pick up some meat and soju for their celebration. Jinho excitedly confirms that he does and promises to return soon. Before leaving, he asks So to keep an eye on Jeonu for him. The wolf cub, now following So, runs towards him, prompting a message to appear, asking So to name the subject, the wolf cub, as it follows him. So contemplates the name and seeks Jeonu's opinion. Jeonu suggests naming it Bakyu and enthusiastically requests So to choose that name. So agrees, and from then on, the wolf cub is called Bakyu. So decides to play with Bakyu and throws a ball, instructing Bakyu to fetch it. Jeonu is amazed by how fast Bakyu is. In the afternoon, Jeonu, exhausted from playing with Bakyu, lies down on the wooden bed, feeling hungry and wondering why his dad is taking so long to return. Just then, So hears a vehicle approaching, and he assumes it's Jinho arriving. The truck stops at their doorstep, and Jinho calls out to Jeonu, asking if he wants to come down and greet his dad. Excited, Jeonu agrees, and they all rush downstairs to welcome Jinho home. However, when they reach Jinho, they are shocked to see him bleeding heavily, and he suddenly faints and falls to the ground. So becomes concerned and worried and asks Jinho what happened. Inside the office area of daily loans, the boss sits on his chair, surrounded by his guards who are playing cards. The boss asks one of his guards about the rewards for the week's SPFC. The guard informs him that John Harvey will receive a reward of 1.2 times his bet, while Jincheol Dang will receive 7 times his bet. Curious about the upcoming match between Michael Jorvis and Beyond Horizon, the boss asks the guard for more information. The guard confirms that the match is indeed scheduled for next week, and people at the cafe are heavily betting on Michael. The boss recalls a past loss when he bet on Tiger and mourns the mistake of following the cafe's betting trends. Suddenly, a loud bang shakes the door, startling everyone inside the room. The boss orders his guards to check what's happening, and one of their own men enters the room, bleeding heavily and visibly shaken. The injured man stutters as he informs the boss that they are in significant trouble. Before he can explain further, someone grabs him from behind and pulls him back outside. The boss and his guards are left wondering who the mysterious intruder might be and what danger they are facing. The guard comes flying back into the office. Thrown back by an unknown force, he crashes into several other guards, creating chaos. The guards, now alarmed and agitated, quickly retrieve their weapons, ready to confront and eliminate the person responsible for this sudden attack. As the guards focus their attention on the door, 2 mysterious eyes appear in the darkness, their presence sending chills down their spines. The eyes seem to pierce through the darkness, emitting an eerie glow. The guards, now furious and demanding the intruder to reveal himself, are met with an astonishing sight. The intruder steps forward, displaying incredible strength as he effortlessly lifts a cupboard with one hand and hurls it towards them, causing the guards to fall back, crashing to the ground in pain. The mysterious figure continues to showcase his power, sending another guard flying towards a glass window, shattering it upon impact. He places his foot on the wounded guard's bleeding head, asserting his dominance as he moves forward, heading towards the boss. Curious and fearful, the boss asks one of his guards standing beside him if he knows who this formidable intruder is. The guard can only make an educated guess that he might be a returnee, someone who has come back with incredible abilities. So's rage remains evident as he kicks the table with his feet, causing immense suffering for the boss and his guard. The boss cries out in pain, stating that his legs are stuck. Seo then steps onto the table and takes a seat, clearly in control of the situation. With authority, Seo questions the boss, who is seated on his chair beside the table. He asks if he is Jong-soo Kim. The boss, trembling with fear, confirms that he is indeed Jong-soo Kim. Desperate to understand who Seo is and why he has resorted to this violent intrusion, the boss nervously questions Seo's identity. Seo responds by tapping the money on the table, indicating that he is someone who is here to pay off Jeno's debt. The boss questions Seo's actions and accuses him of attacking innocent citizens and destroying their office. He warns Seo that he won't get away with this. In response, Seo's anger flares, and he delivers a hard slap to the boss, causing him to spit blood from his mouth. Seo demands to know why the boss treated someone who came to pay off a debt with such aggression. He slaps the boss again, on the other side of his face, emphasizing that when someone offers to pay, he should accept the money willingly and part ways. Frustrated and outraged by the boss's excessive behavior, Seo questions the reason behind the boss going overboard and continues to reprimand him with more slaps. The boss, coughing blood and in extreme pain, pleads with Seo to stop and not to kill him. Despite the boss's pleas, Seo continues to shower him with slaps, demanding that he clear the debt immediately if he wants to avoid further beating and a dire fate. With tears streaming down his face, the boss swears that he will handle the debt issue. Seo then takes a seat on the table, adopting a position of authority, while the boss and his guards kneel before him, visibly defeated. The boss, with blood and broken teeth, manages to convey that Jeno Park's loan has been completely settled as of that day. However, Seo, appearing relentless, claims that he cannot hear them and demands them to scream louder. The boss and his guards scream on top of their lungs, confirming that Jeno Park's loan has indeed been cleared. Seo issues a stern warning that if he ever sees them again in the future, it will be their last encounter, emphasizing that they must stay out of his sight to ensure their own safety. Trembling and fearing for their lives, they all agree to Seo's demand. As Seo walks away from the scene, the guard informs the boss that he has left. The boss, still in pain and shaken from the encounter, tries to gather himself and rises from his kneeling position, expresses his frustration and anger. He claims to have connections and threatens that both Jeno and Seo will meet their demise. Captain Min-hyuk Kang enters the Shilla-gil department and approaches Deputy Park with urgent news. The deputy seems unimpressed and wonders why he is there. Captain proudly presents Seo's profile, referring to him as an epic newbie. Deputy Park glances at the profile and realizes that Seo is an F rank and had just registered as a returnee that day. The captain, however, sees these factors as additional reasons for Seo's potential. Captain Kang requests Deputy Park to show him Seo's complete file. The deputy finds the captain to be quite annoying. A notification on the screen indicates that access to Seo's file is denied. This surprises Deputy Park, and he wonders who Seo is to have such a restriction on his file. Captain Kang asks the deputy if he can bypass the security and access Seo's file through a backdoor. Acting swiftly, Deputy Park types on his keyboard and successfully opens Seo's record. Curious about Seo's status as an F rank and why his file is locked, Deputy Park contemplates whether there is more to Seo than meets the eye. Captain Kang instructs the deputy to check Seo's awakened skills. As Deputy Park investigates Seo's skills, he becomes curious about the term materialization and sees that Seo can make items such as bread and water appear. Captain Kang mockingly suggests that maybe Seo captured Yusik using just bread and water, implying that it's an absurd notion. However, Deputy Park's attention is drawn to another detail in Seo's file, the fact that he was missing for 10 years. This revelation makes him suspicious and leads him to consider the possibility that Seo might be a special agent trained by the government. Captain Kang, now doubting his initial assumptions about Seo's skills, also wonders if Seo has any affiliation with the government. Deputy Park advises the captain to forget about recruiting Seo, as he is almost certain that Seo belongs to the government. He reveals that he had this suspicion from the moment Captain Kang rushed in with urgent news about Seo. Coming to a conclusion, Captain Kang realizes that this may be the reason for Seo's nonchalant demeanor. Captain Kang then suggests getting coffee together. As they depart to go get coffee, he asks Deputy Park to keep an eye on Seo. However, Deputy Park is against the idea and tells the captain to let Seo go. Captain Kang insists that Deputy Park keeps him informed on a weekly basis if anything unusual or noteworthy happens regarding Suo. He wants to stay updated on Suo's activities and any potential developments. However, Deputy Park, feeling overwhelmed with his existing responsibilities, expresses that he is too busy and doesn't have the time to handle this additional task. Suo enters the hospital room, visiting his brother Junho, who is wearing a bandage on his head. Suo has brought a generous amount of food with him, explaining that Junho needs to eat well to recover quickly. The food is fried and from a restaurant. Concerned about Junho's health, Suo asks how he's feeling, and Junho reassures him that the doctors have said they will remove his bandage the next day. Junho then remembers that Suo has the hunter exam tomorrow and asks about it. Suo confirms that he does have the exam. Junho expresses his hope that Suo can join a guild once he passes the test, suggesting that it would be a positive step for him in his journey as a hunter. As Suo enjoys his chicken piece, he reminisces about his days as the king of the forest, a strong and independent individual. The thought of working in a group under a boss doesn't sit well with him. He values his freedom and finds the idea of being part of a high-ranked guild unappealing. Junho, noticing his brother's hesitation, offers to look up some prestigious guilds for him. However, Suo declines the offer, firmly stating that it won't be necessary. Instead, he makes a bold decision. He declares that he is going to start his own guild. Suo declares that he is going to start his own guild. Junho is surprised that Suo wants to start his own instead of joining one that already exists. Inside RCD, Returning Control Department, Agent Choi is on her way somewhere when the director calls out to her from behind. She turns to face him, wondering what the matter is. The director appears frustrated and questions what's been going on with her lately. He proceeds to scold her, mentioning that the district she is in charge of has already made 2 significant mistakes. If the portal that opened yesterday had been a bridge portal, Seoul would have been in serious danger. He expresses his exasperation, emphasizing that he can't handle dealing with the portal management team every morning. Agent Choi, seemingly defensive, asks if he can't handle anything without her. The director, feeling overwhelmed, puts his hands on his head and pleads for her assistance. In response, Agent Choi rather rudely suggests that she should quit her position. Taken aback, the director asks if she's serious. He goes on to explain that his point is that she shouldn't waste her skills. He acknowledges that she possesses great intuition, and he believes she should use it more effectively and responsibly. Miss Choi appears genuinely worried and confesses to the director that she has been struggling to concentrate lately. In response, the director dismisses her concerns and hands her a letter. Curious, she opens and reads it, only to be shocked by its contents. She exclaims in frustration, feeling that just when she was about to get some rest, they are dispatching her somewhere else. The director urges her to stop complaining and questions whether she shouldn't be used to such assignments by now. He reminds her that in their line of work, unexpected missions are common and they must be ready to act whenever required. As Miss Choi walks away, clearly upset, the director calls after her, asking her to forget about what happened. He then raises his voice, telling her not to take her frustration out on the applicants they are recruiting. He explains that they are short on personnel and need as many skilled agents as possible to go out in the field. Miss Choi expresses her frustration, believing that if she approves unqualified candidates, she would essentially be sending them to their deaths. The director warns her to control her temper. In the bustling hall where the hunter's exam is about to take place, there is a mix of anticipation and nerves among the candidates. Some are determined to pass this time, while others are feeling the pressure as it's their 4th attempt. The hall is filled with chatter and excitement as numerous people have gathered for the exam. Among them is a boy with curly hair who holds his phone, recording himself live on his social media account. He addresses his audience with enthusiasm, letting them know that he is at the hunter's exam site, and if they support him, he will strive to obtain his hunter's license and create exciting hunting videos. With charisma and charm, he asks his viewers to like and subscribe to his channel. To his surprise, someone generously donates 20,000 won for him during the live broadcast. Amazed by the support, the curly-haired boy playfully imagines how much more he could earn by creating videos of dungeon adventures. As the excitement continues, inspectors walk into the hall, and the boy informs his audience about the inspector's arrival and announces the end of the live stream due to filming restrictions, He turns around and notices So standing closely behind him, gazing at his phone. The boy seems annoyed by So's proximity and questions what he wants, sarcastically asking if So has never seen a live stream before. Curious, So asks the boy who he was talking to just a moment ago. The boy remains irritated by So's presence and asks what he wants. So, seemingly unfazed, ponders on the boy's uniqueness. However, the boy doesn't share the same sentiment and straightforwardly asks what's up with So, seemingly wanting him to step back and give some space. Meanwhile, a major takes the stage and introduces himself as Major Young-soo Kim, the chief inspector for the next 3 days of the Hunter's exam. A sense of anticipation fills the hall. He addresses the candidates, welcoming them and setting the tone for the upcoming evaluations. Major Kim explains that there are 21 inspectors present who will closely observe and evaluate all the candidates to determine whether they passed or failed the exam. The candidates in the hall start chatting among themselves, expressing their hopes of getting a lenient or favorable inspector this time. Amidst the discussions, someone points at Captain Jung-soo Park, mentioning that he has heard getting assigned to him is like a free pass. There's a reputation that Captain Park is more lenient with his evaluations, raising the candidates' hopes of success. On the other hand, a girl in the crowd mentions a lady inspector known as the Witch, expressing her concern that she tends to fail nearly half of the candidates assigned to her. As Major Kim checks the tablet and announces the process for assigning inspectors, the candidates pay close attention. He informs them that they were assigned numbers on their way in, and their inspectors will be decided through a raffle. When their assigned number is called, they are to stand in front of their designated inspector in a single straight line. The raffle begins, and names are called one by one. Among the candidates, Dong-soo Han, the curly-haired boy, is assigned to Inspector 15. To So's surprise, he too is assigned to Inspector 15. He scans the room to find Inspector 15, and to his recognition, it turns out to be Miss Choi, whom he remembers as Blondie. So thinks to himself, long time, no see. Miss Choi also notices So standing in front of her as she awaits their evaluations. The candidates are then instructed to proceed to the rooms they were assigned to and wait for further announcements. As the candidates start moving and chatting, they discuss their luck in getting different inspectors. Some are excited and consider themselves fortunate to have gotten Inspector 7, while others express concern and feel doomed with their assigned inspectors. A conversation ensues about one particular inspector, referred to as Blondie, and some candidates mention that they are glad they didn't end up with her. Meanwhile, as the boys continue to explore the surroundings, they notice a sparring room that resembles a mini version of the SPFC cage. Dong-soo enters, feeling disappointed with his luck in getting Inspector 15, Miss Choi, whom he refers to as a witch. He had been confident and even bragged to his subscribers about his chances, but now he fears that he might be kicked out right away. Inside room 15, So notices Dong-soo's disappointed demeanor as he enters the room. Curious about the sudden change in mood, So playfully asks if Dong-soo is about to cry despite being all smiles earlier. Dong-soo glances at So and realizes that they are on the same team. Dong-soo opens up to So, explaining that the reason Blondie is nicknamed the Witch is because of her strict and unforgiving nature. When she gets upset, she doesn't hesitate to cut members from her team, jeopardizing their chances of success in the exam. Dong-soo expresses concern that if things don't go well, they could lose their 3 million won application fee in an instant. In response, So seems more level-headed and suggests that if they fail, it should be because they weren't skilled enough, not because of the inspector's actions. However, this perspective seems to trigger Dong-soo's anger. He becomes furious, interpreting So's words as disrespectful and accusing him of talking nonsense. Dong-soo confronts So, warning him to be careful with his words as he has been bothering him since he has arrived. Tensions escalate as Dong-soo takes offense to So's words, feeling that So is underestimating him although So appears younger than him. He warns So to watch his mouth before saying anything. So, not backing down, challenges Dong-soo, suggesting that if he has a problem with the way So talks, they can settle it with a fight. So even mentions knowing an interesting place to fight within the exam site. Their teammates watch in terror, unsure of how this confrontation will unfold. Dong-soo's frustration reaches its peak, and he angrily asks So if he takes him for a fool. So boldly responds with a straightforward yes, further provoking Dong-soo's anger. Dong-soo's patience runs out, and he challenges So to a fight, removing his jacket to prepare for the altercation. Miss Choi enters room 15 to find it empty, wondering where everyone went. Seo and Dong-soo, along with their teammates, are in the sparring room preparing for a potential fight. Their teammates comment on the sparring room, with some finding it impressive and others expressing concern that it could be a dangerous place. Despite the risk of being caught by the inspector, Seo and Dong-soo step inside the ring, ready to face off. One of their teammates urges them to hurry up and get it over with to avoid being caught. Another teammate seems pessimistic about their chances with Miss Choi as their inspector, so he nonchalantly remarks, "It doesn't matter with Blondie as their inspector, they're already doomed." Dong-soo, flexing his muscles, confidently warns Seo that his luck is about to run out for picking a fight with the wrong guy. He boasts about being a promising combat boxer and tuber. Seo asks if tuber is some kind of noodle dish, showing that he hasn't heard of it before. Dong-soo is taken aback by Seo's response and decides that Seo needs to learn some manners right then and there. Their teammates cheer them on, urging Seo and Dong-soo to fight and beat the crap out of each other. Dong-soo attacks Seo with a series of punches, showcasing his boxing style, and proudly states that his hobby is disciplining individuals like Seo. He even imagines how the video of him teaching Seo a lesson could garner many views, but unfortunately, recording isn't allowed in the sparring room. Despite the intense situation, Seo finds it amusing. Dong-soo warns Seo not to ask for any mercy, telling him to brace himself for a fierce battle. Dong-soo throws a punch at Seo, but Seo skillfully dodges it. However, their fight is interrupted by the arrival of Miss Choi, and her presence instantly intimidates everyone in the room. She commands them to stop immediately, putting an end to the scuffle. The other candidates become fearful as they realize that Blondie has arrived, and they quickly rush back to their rooms, believing they may be in trouble. Miss Choi turns towards Dong-soo and Seo, expressing her disapproval of their behavior and remarks that they are practically begging to be eliminated. Dong-soo attempts to explain the situation, but she cuts him off, telling them to forget it and suggesting that one of them takes full responsibility for the confrontation. The shock of her words is evident on Dong-soo's face. Miss Choi makes it clear that she won't tolerate their bickering, and as a consequence, she orders them to fight it out. Whoever loses the fight will be eliminated from the exam. Inspector Choi emphasizes that the loser of the fight will be eliminated, urging Dong-soo and Seo to begin immediately. Dong-soo finds her approach ridiculous but takes responsibility for the situation, warning Seo not to blame him later. Seo apologizes in advance, but Dong-soo tells him to stop talking and face the consequences. Dong-soo prepares to strike Seo with a punch, but Seo unexpectedly lands a powerful punch on his face, sending Dong-soo crashing to the ground. Inspector Choi observes the events and realizes that Seo Park is the cause of the unusual occurrences and unsettling feelings she has experienced since she first saw him. She senses an irregularity about him that sets him apart from the other candidates. As Seo approaches her, he challenges Inspector Choi, suggesting she step into the ring to fight him as well. Inspector Choi is taken aback by his audacity and asks what he just said. Seo reiterates his condition, stating that if he wins the fight, Dong-soo should be allowed to continue in the exam. Inspector Choi is surprised by his boldness and puts down her weapon before entering the ring herself. She questions Seo, asking if he is an irregular. Seo, unsure of what the term means, asks her to explain. Inspector Choi attacks Seo, warning him that she will explain things if he is still alive. Seo skillfully dodges her attack, and she attempts to strike again, but he manages to evade her once more. However, Inspector Choi is not deterred and quickly grabs Seo, lifting him up and sending him flying through the air. She taunts him, offering him another wish if he can defeat her. Undeterred by the powerful attack, Seo remains composed. Inspector Choi charges at him again, but to her surprise, he climbs over the boundary net surrounding the ring. Seo comments on her strength, leaving Inspector Choi intrigued as she realizes there is something unique about him. She lunges at him again, attempting another kick, telling him that warm-up is over. Seo gracefully jumps down from the net, and Inspector Choi follows suit, launching a barrage of punches at him. However, Seo expertly shields himself from all the blows and skillfully dodges her kicks. He then bends down, preparing to deliver a powerful punch to her. Frightened, Inspector Choi quickly puts up a shield to defend herself, but Seo's strength breaks through it effortlessly, sending her flying backward with a resounding thud. Inspector Choi stands up again, clearly bewildered by how easily So broke through her defenses. So charges at her once more, ready to deliver another punch, stating that it's his turn now and finding the fight enjoyable. Inspector Choi curses and admits that she was right, he is an irregular. Her instincts were correct about him. So appears confused, wondering what she means by irregular. Just as So is about to throw another punch, Inspector Choi intervenes and tells him that he has won. So, still energized by the fight, expresses that he is really enjoying it and questions why they should stop now. Inspector Choi interrupts the fight, stating that the cage is not large enough for them to truly showcase their skills. She suggests picking it up next time in a more spacious area. So playfully calls her a buzzkill, but she reminds him that a deal is a deal, and he has won, so he should tell what he wants. So, still amused, asks if there are many women on Earth as strong as her. She responds that she is not sure, probably not. Soho then declares that she's his best bet, to which she responds by slapping him hard. Dongsu, who had been unconscious on the ground, wakes up and is puzzled by what just happened. Dongsu questions why So got slapped by Blondie and why he's on the floor. Inspector Choi leaves in anger. Dongsu realizes the stakes and fears losing his registration fee. So reassures him that it is not going to happen as he is not getting kicked out that easily. Meanwhile, the senior inspector is shocked by the CCTV footage of Inspector Choi losing the fight. So walks out of the cage and tells Dongsu to join him. Dongsu is puzzled and asks why, considering Miss Choi's rule that the loser would be expelled. So reveals that he managed to save Dongsu by seeking a favor from Inspector Choi. Dongsu is surprised and questions why Inspector Choi had slapped So then. So brushes it off, telling Dongsu not to worry about it. Dongsu wonders if So was slapped because of him, as a price for helping Dongsu. Tearfully, he realizes So is a true friend and calls him brother, running after him. An announcement resounds through the speakers, calling for number 46, So Park, to report to the inspector's room immediately. So complies and enters the room, taking a seat inside. The inspector informs So that their conversation will be recorded and proceeds to speak. He expresses his astonishment at witnessing So's sparring session with Inspector Soyoung Choi, a skilled B-ranked returnee. Curiosity piqued, the inspector inquires whether So might be an irregular. So admits that he was asked the same question before but is unsure about what exactly an irregular is. The inspector deduces that So may not be familiar with the specifics of bridge portals yet. The inspector provides a detailed explanation of the 3 planets connected to Earth through bridge portals. The first planet is Aruka, which is primarily inhabited by elves and dwarves. Aruka maintains friendly trade and cultural exchanges with Earth. Returnees from Aruka possess advanced skills in magic, artifact production, and various other abilities. Moving on to the next planet, Hades, the inspector reveals an ongoing power struggle between monsters and centralized tribes on this world. When the portal connects to the territory of a centralized tribe, peaceful exchanges can occur. However, if the portal appears in the monster's territory, it leads to war and conflicts. Lastly, the third planet is Midu. This planet is not only dominated by hostile ogres, but is also teeming with vicious giants. When the portal opens on Midu, immediate warfare ensues due to the hostilities among the inhabitants. There are returnees who have acquired skills from the connected planets, making it challenging to classify their combat capabilities into conventional awakened ranks. Consequently, they are referred to as irregulars. So finds this concept complicated but clarifies that he is not from any of those planets. The inspector then wonders if So was claiming to be a returnee solely from a dungeon. He expresses disbelief that an F-ranked dungeon returnee could defeat a B-rank like Inspector Soyoung Choi. Curious about So's origins, the inspector asks which planet he is from. So explains that he already shared his story with his doctor, stating that he had been running with wolves for 10,000 years. The inspector seems puzzled. So asks if they are finished, to which the inspector confirms and thanks him for sharing his story. He instructs So to return to his post. So stands up and leaves the office. The inspector becomes suspicious of So, finding his story too absurd to be believed. Just then, Sergeant Sang-sik Kim enters the inspector's office and salutes him, asking if he called for him. The inspector instructs Sergeant Kim to take over the position of number 15 inspector. Sergeant Kim questions isn't Soyoung Choi was dispatched there. to which the inspector responds that she ditched them. Curious about the reason, Sergeant Kim inquires further. The inspector brushes it off and assigns Sergeant Kim the task of closely monitoring So Park. He asks him to record all of So's actions and movements until the end of the exam and report them back to him. An announcement calls for the examinees to gather on the track in their uniforms. On track, Dong-soo and So notice a change in their inspector. Sergeant Sang-sik Kim introduces himself as the new inspector in charge for Group 15. He lays out the instructions for the physical test, complete the 100-meter run in under 9 seconds, and finish 40 Ironman challenges within 1 hour. While the sergeant seems confident it will be easy, some group members feel uneasy, considering the varying awakened skills among them. The test commences, and a girl completes the race in 13 seconds, but she is declared out. She argues with the inspector, suggesting that the physical test standards should be lowered for returnees with healing skills. The inspector responds sarcastically, asking if she thinks monsters would come out slower just because she is a healer, and he orders her to leave. Next, the inspector calls for Dong-soo Han, who appears confident and feels he can do it easily. So, on the other hand, worries it might be a close call for him and wonders about the 40 Ironman challenges. Dong-soo wishes So good luck and begins the race. He successfully completes it in 8 seconds and is declared as a pass. Then, it's So's turn. He stands at the starting line. Dong-soo cheers for him, urging him to run like the wind, and to their astonishment, So actually runs with remarkable speed, leaving everyone surprised. In his office, the senior inspector receives a phone call from Sergeant Kim. When he answers, Sergeant Kim informs the inspector that he has the results from So Park's physical exam, but he believes the inspector won't believe what he's about to say. To support his statement, Sergeant Kim mentions that he has sent a video for the inspector to see. Curious, the inspector asks about the reporters present on the track. Sergeant Kim informs him that they are fascinated by So's performance and appearance, clicking photos of him and even questioning if he's truly human. The senior inspector calls Miss Miso Kim from the Returnee Control Department and asks her to review the videos he just sent her regarding So Park's physical exam. In Miss Miso Kim's office, Mr. Park, the person showing her the videos on a screen, mentions that Senior Inspector Kim is an expert in detecting lies. They speculate that if Dr. Jong-gut Kim's interview with So was authentic, then it seems everything So reported was true. Miss Miso Kim had her doubts about So's claims, but she is now reconsidering them. She wonders if the F-ranked delusional patient could actually be a B-ranked irregular, and if all of his statements were indeed accurate, there's a possibility that So Park might be the first returnee from a completely new fourth planet. Miss Miso Kim orders Mr. Park to block the press from the test site, but he informs her that an article about So has already been published. She becomes frustrated and demands that the articles be taken down immediately, while also implementing an embargo to prevent further coverage. When Mr. Park shows Captain Miso Kim the article about So, she urgently asks him to get the articles taken down and orders an immediate embargo on any further coverage. Meanwhile, on the track, the press gathers around So, clicking photos and requesting a moment of his time for a few questions. Captain Miso Kim recalls that So was initially classified as an F rank due to the dimensional energy damage he suffered while passing through the portal without protective equipment. However, she wonders if So's physical stats were awakened all this time. She also remembers that their department had a status window error around the same time. Her mind races with thoughts about So potentially being a returnee from a new fourth planet, which would make Korea an innovator in its development. Outside So's assigned room, the press continues to gather, eager to take his photos and conduct interviews. The officers try to prevent them from entering and urge them to take caution and move back from the area. In the cafeteria, the examinees speculate about why reporters are gathered outside, wondering if it's because of So Park. Meanwhile, So is casually enjoying his meal, and Dong-soo, sitting beside him, observes him with interest. Dong-soo reflects on that he knew he couldn't get beaten by any ordinary person, and he regrets streaming their fight, realizing it could have garnered significant damage. So notices Dong-soo staring and asks what he's looking at. Dong-soo quickly brushes it off, saying it's nothing, and stands up to get some water. He finds So's way of eating quite extraordinary as he eats like a wolf. Despite this, Dong-soo believes that So is destined for greatness and has a strong feeling that So will achieve remarkable things. Inside room 15, So lies on a wooden bed while Dong-soo sits beside him, observing the empty lockers and concluding that the others didn't make the cut. Despite this, So seems unconcerned. Dong-soo expresses his concern, telling So that it's not good because the next mission involves a dungeon raid, and having more people in their team would be advantageous. He wonders if they will get reassigned members from other teams to fill the gaps. However, So remains confident and assures Dong-soo that they will be fine and he can handle it on his own. Dong-soo admires So's confidence, but explains that dungeon environments are diverse, and having a variety of skills in their team would make it easier to clear them. So tells Dong-soo that he worries too much and asks Dong-soo about the thing he was talking into his phone when they first met. Dong-soo explains to So that it's Nutu and asks how So is unfamiliar with Nutu. Was he stranded on an island or something? So mentions that it was something like an island, which surprises Dong-soo. He finds So to be quite the enigma and explains that Nutu is a platform where people upload videos, and he is a content creator with 1284 subscribers. Dong-soo shows So his phone and demonstrates Nutu, showing the number of subscribers he has. He also points out another channel with 1 million subscribers, mentioning that it became popular quickly due to mukbangs, which involve eating large quantities of food on camera. They come across a mukbang video of a girl eating fried food, and So wonders if she eats all that by herself. Dong-soo realizes that So's impressive eating abilities would make him a great fit for mukbang videos. He offers to connect So with some mukbang content creators if he's interested in joining their shows. So is thrilled at the idea of eating that much food on Nutu and compliments Dong-soo, acknowledging him as a pretty decent guy. Dong-soo recognizes that So possesses all the right qualities for Nutu, with his handsome looks, fitness, and the attention he has already gained from his exceptional test scores. Dong-soo believes that once So demonstrates his combat skills in the dungeon, he'll be drafted into a famous guild in no time. So he contemplates the potential consequences of making a video with someone like So. So then surprises Dong-soo by offering him to join his clan. Dong-soo is taken aback and asks if So plans to create his own clan. He also questions if So isn't going to interview for a guild. So confidently responds with a no. Dong-soo carefully considers So's offer to join his clan, recognizing the potential of teaming up with So, who will undoubtedly be the main attraction during the hunter's test. He contemplates making a video of their dungeon clearing adventure, realizing it could be the breakthrough he needs. Reflecting on his past struggles and the difficulty of pursuing boxing as a means of making money, Dong-soo's hopes were dashed when a catastrophe changed everything. However, he sees Combat Nutu as his last chance to achieve financial success, as long as the content is compelling. Dong-soo views So as the epic content he has been searching for and believes this could be the opportunity he needs. With determination, Dong-soo clenches his fist and tells So that he is fully committed to anything they do together. He sees this collaboration as the breakthrough he's been waiting for, and he is ready to seize the opportunity with So by his side. So praises Dong-soo, and Dong-soo, overwhelmed with happiness, tearfully assures So that he will deliver on his promise about mukbang. He starts tearing when he realizes that networking is crucial for success. Curious about Dong-soo's sudden tears, So asks if everything is all right, to which Dong-soo brushes it off, assuring him that it's nothing to worry about. As they discuss forming a clan which requires at least 3 hunters, they are joined by someone unexpected, a monk. The newcomer introduces himself as Myong-jin, examinee number 80, assigned to Group 15. He greets them with a prayer-like gesture, surprising Dong-soo, who wonders what a monk is doing here. An announcement is made through the speakers, asking all examinees to change into their battle suits and gather in the 3rd floor briefing hall within the next 30 minutes. Dong-soo and So are puzzled by this sudden request, wondering why they need to change into their battle suits now. Myong-jin, the monk, explains that dungeon missions may sometimes be carried out suddenly at night without prior notice, and he adds a prayer-like gesture. This surprises Sohoo and Dong-soo. Inside the briefing hall, Senior Inspector Kim stands on the stage with a large screen beside him. He addresses the examinees, informing them that the briefing is about the upcoming dungeon mission. The dungeon they will be tested in is located in Seoul District 5 and is under the management of the Phoenix Guild. It is a level 1 dungeon with 250 doors. Dong-su informs So that while the Phoenix Guild may not be among Korea's top 12 guilds, they still have a good reputation. So, on the other hand, seems unfamiliar with the concept of a dungeon being under guild management, prompting Dong-su to wonder if So is from another planet due to his lack of knowledge on the matter. Dong-su explains that the government sought assistance from private hunter clans, known as guilds, to manage the portals that appear and disappear constantly. These guilds agreed to a defense contract with the government to supervise the 12 districts in Seoul. As they managed more dungeon areas, their profits grew, and the dimensional industry became a significant part of the international economic order. In summary, these dungeons are approved and regulated by the government, functioning as legal hunting grounds for making money. So expresses his desire to form a clan because he misses hunting with his wolf pack, but the idea of becoming the master of his own territory brings a smile to his face. Dong-su agrees and points out that having their own dungeon would be advantageous, as they wouldn't have to pay to enter one. So encourages Dong-su to set a goal towards making a guild, even though they have to pass the hunter's exam first. The senior inspector shows them a picture of the portal on District 5 Highway 14, revealing that it leads to a Level 1 dungeon with 15 days remaining until the dungeon break. It's a labyrinth dungeon with minimal materials and low difficulty. The inspector laments that it's frustrating when both the dimensional energy supply is limited and the monsters are weak. Dong-su realizes that the main challenges in this dungeon are not the monsters with the potential traps and the labyrinthine layout. He realizes the importance of having essential skills to successfully clear a dungeon. Dong-su wishes that he had the search skill. Sohoo informs him that he possesses the search skill. Dong-su becomes excited, but then wonders if So has that skill, which costs 30 million won, even before attempting the exam, then it means he might be loaded. Dong-su addresses Monk and asks him about the skills he possesses. Monk delves deep into his memory and recalls a past incident. He remembers how he used to pray in his prayer room by striking a wooden clapper to produce a specific sound while reciting the prayer that form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Form does not differ from emptiness. Emptiness does not differ from form. This action unexpectedly draws the attention of nearby monsters, who immediately rush towards the temple, screeching loudly. In the midst of the chaos, Monk Myeong-jin's brother, Gung-seo, enters the prayer room, visibly scared, and urgently asks him to stop. Monk inquires about Gung-seo's unexpected presence at that hour, and in extreme horror, Gung-seo screams that they must get the abbot and evacuate. Meanwhile, a monster approaches Gung-seo from behind, its mouth wide open. Filled with fury, Monk tells Dong-su that their meeting is now concluded. Sohoo and Dong-su are left wondering what might be wrong with Monk. The senior inspector gathers everyone and announces that it's time to move to their destination, where they will begin their dungeon mission with their group's supervisor present. He advises them to review the manual once more during their journey and wishes them good luck, hoping to see all of them at the end of the mission. They board a bus and head towards their destination. Upon arrival, the in-charge inspector checks if everyone is prepared. He instructs them to act as if he is not there once they enter the dungeon and to focus on their mission. He warns them that even if their team successfully completes the mission, individual points will be crucial, and anyone with lacking points might face repercussions. Dong-su addresses the inspector, pointing out that their team only consists of 3 people, and he asks if they will receive assistance if they encounter something extremely dangerous. The inspector smirks and replies, "Let's go," indicating that they'll have to face the challenges ahead without any guarantees of external help. So questions Dong-su about his fear, but Dong-su denies being scared. Monk then asks if they are allowed to use their personal weapons, and the inspector confirms that they can. As they are about to exit the bus, Dong-su notices something up Monk's sleeves and wonders if Monk already had a weapon made of dimensional material before the hunter exam. Inside the dungeon, Group 14's entrance gets cleared, and they proceed further. When Group 15, which includes Dong-su, Sohoo, and Monk, reaches entry door 175, they feel excitement as they enter and have their entrance cleared. Monk takes the lead, which makes Dong-su nervous, and he wonders why Monk is walking ahead of everyone. In a moment of panic, Dong-su screams at Sohoo to watch his surroundings, but he quickly realizes his mistake and puts a hand on his mouth, trying to stay quiet. Unfortunately, he has made a point deduction as he attracted a monster with the noise, rather than first securing a safety zone quietly. A skeletal monster screeches at Sohu, but he easily handles it, grabbing and smashing the creature. Luring the monster with a distraction and taking it down while it's preoccupied seems like a brilliant plan to Dongsu. He asks Sohu if he's currently using his search skills, but before he can convey his message, Dongsu accidentally triggers a booby trap by stepping on something. Arrows start raining down on them, and the situation becomes intense. As Monk witnesses the trap, it reminds him of a similar situation where he had saved his brother from a comparable trap during a monster attack in their temple. He felt responsible and apologized to his brother, believing it's his fault for leading them into danger. Sohu skillfully handles the arrow rain by using his weapon in a circular motion to create a protective shield. Dongsu is impressed by Sohu's remarkable spear skills. However, Dongsu, not paying enough attention, steps on another trap, causing the ground beneath them to collapse. They all fall into a hole, and the ground closes back above them. Dongsu lands on his back, and in the moment of uncertainty, he wonders if this might be the end of his dreams. Inside the closed tunnel, the group hears something approaching them. Dongsu believes that they have managed to attract all the monsters. Monk apologizes, saying this is due to his awakened skills drawing wide aggro. Dongsu gets amazed by the concept of wide aggro. Sohu, on the other hand, finds it favorable, as he's relieved not to have to search for the monsters since they have come to them instead. Sohu is pleased that Monk's wide aggro skill saves them from having to search for monsters. Sohu takes action by kicking the ground hard, causing it to crash and creating an opening to jump out of the hole. Dongsu admires Sohu's quick skills. Sohu then invites Monk to join his clan, but Monk seems puzzled and doesn't fully comprehend the idea. Their attention shifts as they notice a group of skeletal monsters running towards them. Dongsu realizes the seriousness of the situation. Feeling that they are in trouble, Monk reacts swiftly and jumps out of the hole as well. He offers his weapon to Dongsu to grab onto, allowing him to be pulled out of the hole. Dongsu takes hold of the weapon and realizes their plan, to use Monk's wide aggro skill to draw out all the monsters and then hunt them down. Monk successfully pulls Dongsu out of the hole. As Dongsu emerges from the hole, they are astonished to find that So has already taken care of all the approaching monsters, handling them single-handedly. Sohu playfully wobbles a skeleton, telling Monk and Dongsu to clean up the remaining monsters and follow him. Monk assures Sohu that they are right behind him. Dongsu is thoroughly impressed by Sohu's skills, finding him to be incredibly skilled and effective. They all team up and attack the remaining skeletal monsters, clearing them out swiftly. Dongsu wonders if Sohu used his search skills to locate the booby trap and is now effectively using it against the monsters to take them down quickly. In the heat of battle, a skeletal monster manages to attack Sohu from behind, but he crushes it with ease, eliciting a compliment from Dongsu. Sohu receives a notification informing him that he has earned 42 performance points. Inside the control office, a senior officer receives information that a team is returning from the dungeon, which surprises him because it has only been 30 minutes since they entered. The senior inspector, aware that dungeon missions typically take around 5 hours on average, wonders if there was an accident or some unexpected event. He asks for the group number, and the officer, checking the data on his desktop, informs him that it's Group 15 and that all members' vitals are normal. The senior inspector is taken aback when he realizes that it's So Park's team. He immediately contacts So and questions why they are already back. So confidently informs the inspector that they have successfully accomplished the mission. This revelation shocks the senior inspector even more. The extraordinary performance in the dungeon and the difficulty of measuring the highest stats in a level 1 dungeon may have contributed to their remarkably fast completion. He suggests the inspector watch the video to understand better. On a bustling street, Dongsu holds a phone on a stand and addresses his subscribers, announcing that it's time for So Clan's vlog, where he will take them through their clan's daily activities. Excitement brews among his viewers as they eagerly wait to see what he has in store for them. However, Dongsu informs them that he'll first show a clip from their housewarming party. Inside the So Clan office, they begin with member introductions. The first person introduced is their ultra-sexy and super cute nutritionist, Granny Socha, who also serves as their cook. As she is busy chopping something, Dongsu requests her to say hello to the subscribers. Granny becomes irritated and responds angrily, telling Dongsu to leave her alone as she is swamped with work. She warns him to get lost, raising her knife, and jests about making sausages with his intestines. This startles Dong-soo, and he feels as if his ears might start bleeding upon hearing her fierce words. Meanwhile, Jeonyu is having a meal with his father and asks Jenho what Grandma meant by her threat. Dong-soo explains to his subscribers that Granny Sukja is all talk and no action. He reassures them that she's actually very sweet and kind, despite her intimidating demeanor. Dong-soo opens a sliding door to introduce the third member of the So clan, Monk Myong-jin, who is known for his expertise in wide aggro and spear skills. Inside, they find Sohoo and Monk sitting at a table, enjoying their meals. Dong-soo informs his subscribers that the monk with glasses on his head is Myong-jin. Monk invites Dong-soo to join them for a meal, and Dong-soo seizes the opportunity to request Monk to say something to their subscribers. Monk hesitates for a moment, but then he shares that he has faced significant challenges from evil demons. However, with the help of the spear his brother left for him, their conversation is interrupted by a screeching truck pulling up to their doorstep. It's Jenho. Jenho informs So that they are all set, prompting them to quickly gather and hop onto his truck. So spots a flying drone following them from the air and asks what it is and whether he should take it down. Dong-soo explains that it is a flying drone used for recording their activities. Dong-soo addresses his subscribers, letting them know that they are en route to tackle the quest at Gate 30 in District 4. Upon arrival at the dungeon, Dong-soo shows his subscribers a bluish portal behind the barrier, which is today's first dungeon quest for the So clan. He informs his viewers that he will upload an awesome video once they get back, since his awakened skill is image memory, and they should keep an eye on their notifications. As they enter the dungeon, they are met with numerous bats, indicating that it's a bat dungeon. Dong-soo asks Sohoo if he has any long-range skills, but Sohoo doesn't possess any. Monk takes out his wooden clapper and starts hitting it while chanting in his language. The bats begin to gather above them, and Dong-soo shows this to his subscribers, highlighting how the bats are reacting unusually to the sound of Monk's wooden drum. The bats attack them, swarming towards Monk. In response, Monk uses his weapon to unleash a flame wheel, burning and eliminating every attacking bat. Finally, the boss of the bat dungeon appears. So swiftly attacks the boss with his long sword, and they successfully clear the mission. Afterward, they sit down and start digging out bloodstones from the hundreds of bats they defeated. Sohoo reminds them to hurry as the dungeon's door is open for them to leave. Miss Miso Kim from the returning control department checks the comments on Dong-soo's Bat Dungeon video, where people are praising the So clan for making the mission appear easy, even though it's not that simple in reality. Meanwhile, Mr. Park informs her while glancing at his phone screen that the So clan has established their office in Seoul, District 4, and they are efficiently clearing level 1 dungeons in the area. They are so fast that they can complete 20 dungeons in a day. He also notices that Dongju TV now has 68 subscribers. Miss Miso becomes worried as she realizes that she put everything under embargo, but unexpectedly, one of them turns out to be a YouTuber. Mr. Park informs her that So's videos are currently the third most watched content. They acknowledge the potential for things to spiral out of control if they don't take action, which means they need a plan to handle the situation. As Miss Miso Kim continues browsing videos, she stumbles upon one featuring a match between the formidable Russian Hulk, Mikhail Jorvas, and the skilled challenger, Okita Hiro. The intense battle keeps her attention glued to the screen as Jorvas delivers his signature killer move, the Mega Punch Shower, silencing the horizon. After the match, Jorvas boldly calls out the #1 world champion, Japan's Okita Hiro, as his next opponent. Video reminds Miss Miso of the SS-ranked irregular from Korea, Sang Lee, also known as Okita Hiro. She worries that if the government approaches Seo too hastily under the pretext of protecting gifted individuals like Sanggu, things might end up as they did during the time with Seonggu. Miss Miso decides to take action. She requests Mr. Park to set up a meeting with Seo, as she intends to speak with him personally. Outside the Seo clan office, the usual chatter about the price of gimbap and fish cakes continues. Inside, Seo, Dong-soo, and Jenho are seated in front of their monitor screens. Dong-soo asks if Monk is taking the day off, and Jenho confirms that he is. Seo wonders where Monk went since he thought Monk didn't have a temple to go back to. Jenho informs them that Monk actually lives in Seoul with other surviving monks. Dong-soo expresses his concern that it will be more challenging for them to hunt without Monk's skills. However, Jeno suggests that So should also consider taking a day off since their clan is qualified for a level update, so it should be fine. He further shares that they made 140 million won in the last 3 days, which excites Dong-soo. He realizes that with this amount, they can move on to level 2 dungeons. Reflecting on his achievements, Dong-soo is pleased to see that he has collected 20 million won in his account, primarily from gathering bloodstones. He becomes even more excited at the prospect of handling level 2 dungeons and starts calculating how many bloodstones he would need to earn even more money. With over 3,000 performance points, So has purchased a variety of skills, leading him to see a lot of things. Due to this, he agrees to take a day off from their usual activities. Jeno announces his plan to take Grandma and Jeonyu to the park during this time. Grandma lovingly gives a bowl of food to Bakyu, the wolf cub. So observes them and wonders if dogs can be awakened just like humans. Curious, he addresses Jeno and asks if he isn't tired, considering he has been busy fixing the truck recently. Jeno explains that finding the right parts is already challenging, and the actual process of fixing it is even more demanding. Seho then offers Jeno the idea of buying a new truck, the latest model. Jeno becomes visibly excited at the prospect. So also suggests taking Bakyu with them. At the showroom, the salesperson shows them the Condel Drago XG7000, a dream car for hunters. Jeno expresses his admiration for the vehicle. The salesperson explains that this car runs on bloodstones and it is priced at 80 million won, which is considered to be a very cost-effective deal. So asks Jeno if he likes the car, to which Jeno responds affirmatively. Seho then informs the salesperson that they will take the car and pay the full amount in cash. Excited about their purchase, So inquires if they can drive the car out of the showroom immediately. Excitedly, Jeno drives the Condel Drago XG7000 with the wolf cub seated on his lap. Jeno exclaims that the car is incredibly cool, much better than their previous truck. So agrees, mentioning that even the passenger seat is comfortable and they should have gotten this car sooner. As they head towards their destination in District 4, 23rd Street, Jeno questions why they are going there, as that area is closed off. So reveals that Jeno had previously told So that he couldn't be awakened because he didn't have enough money. However, today So plans to get Jeno awakened. This revelation shocks Jeno, and he becomes visibly nervous as they arrive at their destination. The wolf cub, Bakyu, starts woofing, sensing something amiss. So senses a stale stench, which he identifies as the presence of goblins. Bakyu growls, confirming the presence of goblins. Nervously, Jeno asks So if they can just go back, but So is determined to proceed with the plan. He clicks open the car door, telling Jeno to wait for him in the car with Bakyu. As Jeno pleads with So to wait for a second, So doesn't hesitate and swiftly dashes away like the wind, leaving Jeno utterly amazed. Inside the Daily Loans office, a video from Dong-soo's YouTube channel showcasing their bat hunting in the dungeon is being played. The boss notices So in the video and asks if it's him. The guard confirms that it is indeed So and mentions that he has become quite popular on YouTube lately. The boss acknowledges that So's combat capabilities are hard to measure as he is an irregular, making him a formidable force. The boss realizes that hiring an assassin might not be effective against So due to this. However, he decides they cannot simply do nothing. He orders the guard to compile a list of individuals in the District 4 guilds to whom they usually give money. The guard mentions Mr. Choi, and the boss becomes excited at the idea of seeking his services to deal with So. Mr. Choi is known for efficiently getting rid of targets and requires half of the payment upfront. The guard shares that Mr. Choi took out 6 credit delinquents last time, showcasing his capabilities. The boss cunningly smiles and instructs the guard to contact Mr. Choi and pay in whatever amount he demands. As Grandma walks towards her home, the sky suddenly thunders, and the rain begins to pour. She realizes she'll have to do laundry again due to the rain. A car stops by her, and 3 people dressed in tuxedos step out. They approach Grandma and inquire if she is Sucha Lee. One of them is Miss Miso from the Returnee Control Department, and she shows her identity card to Grandma. Miss Miso requests to have a word with So. Grandma remains silent. Meanwhile, back where Jeno and Bakyu are waiting in the car, the rain is also pouring heavily. Juno, sitting inside the car, is unable to see anything due to the rain. So has been gone for half an hour, and Juno begins to wonder where he went. Suddenly, a monster appears by the car window, terrifying Juno. However, the monster suddenly drops dead, leaving its blood on Juno's window. Juno is puzzled by what just happened. So opens his side of the car door and asks Juno to get down. They step out of the car, and Baku sniffs the dead monster lying there. Another monster attacks them, and So hands a weapon to Juno, asking him to kill the monster and follow him. Trembling, Juno picks up the weapon and nervously asks So to wait for him. Juno's tears well up in his eyes. He asks So if he truly needs to be awakened. So, understanding the seriousness of the situation, tells Juno that he cannot survive if he remains weak. Urging him to act quickly, So instructs Juno to kill the approaching monster. So then commands Baku to attack the monster, but unfortunately, the young wolf cub proves to be too inexperienced and is caught by the monster. So realizes that Baku is not yet strong enough to face such a threat. So tells Juno that he must stab the monster now to save Baku's life. Juno, still trembling with fear and emotion, pleads with So, tears streaming down his face. However, So remains firm in his orders, urging Juno to attack and kill the monster. The weight of the moment is overwhelming for Juno, and his hand trembles. As the rain pours down and Juno's emotions run high, he musters all his strength and stabs the monster with all his might. His attack successfully causes the creature to release Baku from its grip. So urges him to attack the monster again. Juno musters all his strength and stabs the creature repeatedly, letting out a fierce scream with each blow. Covered in blood and horrified by what he's doing, Juno throws the weapon away in shock. He looks at his blood-stained hands with terror. So insists that Juno pick up the knife again, emphasizing the urgency of the situation. Juno, nearly in tears, tells So that he can't do it. But So reminds him that if he doesn't kill the monster, he will die. As the wounded monster starts to get up and prepare to attack again, So implores Juno to finish it off and follow him, as time is running out. In that intense moment, Juno recalls a similar situation from the past when So didn't come to his aid when he was being bullied physically by seniors. He remembers how So walked away, leaving him to face the bullies alone, despite Juno calling for his help, and So is doing same again. Fueled by a mix of frustration and determination, Juno stops crying and picks up the knife once more. He realizes that So has always been like this. With his eyes burning red with anger, Juno stabs the monster with all his might, telling it to shut up. He continues the relentless attack, stabbing the creature repeatedly, causing blood to splatter all around. Finally, with a fierce blow, he cuts the monster's head in half. With anger still coursing through him, Juno continues to stab the monster relentlessly until it lies lifeless before him. He smirks as he gazes at the bloodied knife. However, his moment of triumph is short-lived as another monster suddenly pounces on him, causing Juno to fall on his back with the creature on top of him. Juno lets out a loud scream, telling the monster to go to hell, and stabs it with the knife once again. He manages to push the monster away, stands up, and walks away holding the bloody knife in his hand, with Baku following him. Covered in the sticky sensation of the monster's blood, Juno makes his way to where So is sitting on top of a small building. He confronts So, demanding to know why So is putting him through all of this. So calmly checks Juno's stats, which reveal his designation as a level F1 butcher. So finds the butcher tag to be somewhat cute and asks Juno that has he ever worked at slaughterhouse. Looking up at So, Juno, still covered in the monster's blood, answers that he has never worked at a slaughterhouse before. So then requests Juno to come up to where he is seated, and Juno complies, climbing up to join So at the top of the small building. Observing a pile of lifeless monsters behind So, Juno hears So suggesting to conclude their activities at that location. At night, with the rain still pouring, So along with drenched in blood, Juno, enter the Returning Control Department, RCD. A lady officer inquires how she can assist them. So informs her that Juno has just awakened. The officer advises Juno to first wash up in the shower room and then proceed to the third floor for screening in the Dimensional Energy Grading Room. As Juno makes his way to the shower room, he asks So about the grading process. So explains that there's a machine in the grading room that measures a person's dimensional energy. In order to be registered as an awakened F rank, one needs to exceed 100 in the measurement, qualifying them for the Hunter exam. So adds that he had scored 96 previously, which is why he failed the exam. Jeno seems somewhat skeptical of this information. After showering, they enter the Dimensional Energy Grading Lab. Jeno is asked to lie down on the measuring machine, and after a flash and a beep sound, his score appears to be 111. The lab attendant instructs him to get up and proceed to the skill manifestation room. The lady lab attendant offers So the opportunity to undergo the screening process as well. So agrees and lies down on the screening machine. As the machine starts processing, So closes his eyes. However, he soon notices a notification indicating that someone is observing him, and his information will be recorded. Startled, he quickly opens his eyes, and the digits representing his score appear. To his surprise, his score is 189. The lady attendant praises So for his impressive rate of increase, acknowledging that it matches what she has heard about him. She informs him that with this rate, he will soon be upgraded to an E rank. Curious about the machine's origin, So asks her who created it. The attendant politely replies that she is quite certain it was made by some scientist. The mystery behind the machine's creation by what scientist leaves So with a sense of wonder. Jeno Park is informed that his awakened ID card is ready. They also provide him with a cell phone and inform him that he is now qualified to take the Hunter exam. So congratulates his brother on this achievements. Soho then asks Jeno if he felt anything unusual during the energy grading process. Jeno responds that he didn't feel anything out of the ordinary. So speculates that it might be because Jeno is not as sensitive as him in that regard. So further inquires about Jeno's awakened skill, to which he reveals it to be execution. Meanwhile, So notices Inspector Mayon Choi passing by and playfully calls her Blondie to get her attention. The junior inspectors with Inspector Choi are taken aback by So's audacity, assuming he must have a death wish. One of the junior inspectors recognizes that he is So Park. So apologizes for his previous comment to Inspector Choi during their last meeting, mentioning that he is not accustomed to interacting with civilized people just yet. She brushes it off, telling him to forget it and avoid crossing paths again. The junior inspectors start teasing their captain about her supposed connection with So, jokingly asking if she's getting married soon. So remains silent. The junior inspectors encourage So to get a move on already, and he feels disappointed by the situation. So comes to the realization that Inspector Choi's temperament is absolutely fitting as the godmother of the pack. Inside the So clan office, Miss Miso from RCD sits beside Grandma as they both enjoy strawberry liquor. Grandma compliments Miss Miso's ability to handle alcohol despite her young age. She shares with Miss Miso that her late husband had made the liquor 10 years ago, but unfortunately never got a chance to taste it. Savoring the drink, Miss Miso comments that those troublesome monsters truly seem to have a death wish. Grandma appreciates her candid way of speaking. Miss Miso also praises Grandma for the delicious fish cake soup she served, calling it the best she's ever had. Grandma agrees, mentioning how well it pairs with drinks. Miss Miso remarks that So appears to be running late. Just then, Soho and Jeno enter the office, prompting Grandma to humorously say, "Speak of the devil." Jionu happily runs to greet his dad and Baku. He embraces his dad and questions why he's so late. Jenho asks his son if he had a fun day, to which Jionu enthusiastically responds yes. So notices Miss Miso, and she stands up to greet him. So appears intrigued and asks her who she is. Before she responds, her stats appear in front of him, revealing that she is Miso Kim, level A2. She introduces herself as Captain Miso Kim of the RCD Returnee Management Team. So asks why she is here. Miss Miso explains that she's here to propose a contract. When So returned to Earth, he arrived through a crimson portal, indicating that the requirements were met for a safe return. She elaborates that the official title of the returnees is Coordinate Human. Furthermore, the crimson portal will reappear as a bridge portal, allowing them to visit each other's side. Intrigued by her explanation, So asks where the red portal will appear. With a pointing gesture towards So, Miss Miso indicates that it will be near the coordinate. So is intrigued by the possibility of seeing his friends again through the bridge portal. Miss Miso explains that the RCD assumes the fourth planet is a new discovery, and if their assumptions are correct, Korea will have the only bridge portal to that planet. So inquires when the portal will appear, to which she responds within 99 days. So inquires about Miss Miso's intentions, asking her what she wants from him. In response, she requests that he refrains from leaving Korea until the portal opens. Concerned about the restriction, So asks her why he should do that. Miss Miso expresses her concern that she doesn't want him to end up like Sang-Lee, currently ranked as #1 in the world, known as Okita Hero in Korea. She elaborates on the Sang-Lee incident, where early on during the catastrophe, the government detained and imprisoned returnees under the pretext of protecting them. Despite being just a D-ranked returnee, Sang-Lee was incredibly powerful and couldn't be contained by the facility. After feeling disappointed in his country, the Japanese government approached Sang-Lee, leading him to move to Japan. He played a pivotal role in the creation of the gate to planet Hades in Tokyo. Miss Miso then explains the significance of the dimensional energy industry and how Korea would suffer a great loss if the portal appears while So is abroad. Comprehending the situation, So inquires about what he will gain from cooperating. Miss Miso offers to let him name his terms. So seizes the opportunity and requests the promotion of the So clan to guild status. Dong-soo secretly overhears their conversation, hiding from their sight. Captain Miso inquires if there is anything else she needs to know, assuring him that she will add all the details to the file. So mentions almost forgetting to ask a crucial question, whether there will be any signs when the portal opens. She nods in response and informs him that the RCD will dispatch their best agent specialized in sensing dimensional energy fissures, ensuring they have the most skilled person on the task. Upon hearing about the RCD's best agent, So is reminded of his previous encounter with Inspector Choi when she slapped him. Inspector Choi is angrily and intensely working out, venting her frustrations on the punching bag. The junior inspectors observe her with concern, wondering what has gotten into her. She contemplates whether she should throw So in jail for his audacious behavior. At that moment, Captain Miso approaches and asks her what's going on. Inspector Choi dismisses it as nothing and tells her she's not in the mood, asking to be left alone. Captain Miso questions if she's ever in the mood for anything. Unfazed, Inspector Choi urges her to stop poking at her and asks what she wants. Captain Miso reveals that she needs Inspector Choi to go on a little trip, leaving her intrigued. Inspector Choi questions Captain Miso, asking which trip she is referring to. In response, Captain Miso hands over a file containing all the details about the said trip. As Choi reads through the file, she begins to tremble and asks Miso why she has been chosen for this mission. Miso reassures Choi that she is the perfect candidate for the job, being the best among her team. Miso further explains that they have little knowledge about the destination planet, leaving them unprepared if a portal were to suddenly open up in the middle of the city. Choi expresses her belief that such an event would lead to catastrophic consequences, referring to it as a gateway to hell. Miso advises Choi that if she detects any signs of dimensional fissure, she should immediately alert Sato and evacuate the area. Until then, Miso insists that Choi should remain by So's side constantly, no matter the circumstances. After those words, Miso walks away, leaving Choi in a state of disbelief. Choi makes up her mind to draft her resignation letter. Seated on his bed, Junho is engulfed in a state of depression following his recent encounter with the demon. His mood is dismal as he reminisces about the terrifying event when suddenly, he hears Jeonu calling him to join them for a meal. Reluctantly, Junho joins Dong-soo, Sohoo, Jeonu, and So in the dining hall where they are all having their meal together. Amidst the conversation, Dong-soo excitedly announces that they have successfully passed their clan advertisement screening. They can now embark on level 2 dungeon quests. However, Junho points out that they would need at least a group of D ranks to conquer a level 2 dungeon, and they are currently short-handed. He suggests that it might be wiser to focus on level 1 dungeons for the time being. Dong-soo acknowledges Junho's valid point, but insists that with So on their team, level 2 dungeons will be a walk in the park. So, however, proposes a more cautious approach, suggesting that they focus on level 1 dungeons to earn more money and level up faster with the skill book. He further suggests that once they are better prepared, they can divide in groups or recruit more members if needed for level 2 dungeons. Agreeing with So's plan, they all prepare to leave. Just then, Monk enters the hall and warmly greets everyone. Dong-soo asks if he has eaten yet, and Monk confirms that he has. He suggests that they should head out, and the group makes their way towards the Toad Dungeon, encountering a lot of traffic at the entrance with impatient honking to gain faster entry. Amidst the bustling scene, Jasik spots Seho and rushes over to him. So recognizes him and warmly greets him, commenting on their long time apart. Jasik reveals that he had heard about So forming his own clan. So inquires about Jasik's friends, and Jasik reassures him that they are all doing well. So is curious about why Jasik is currently in a temporary clan, but before he can respond, Jasik's clan members call for him from behind, urging him to hurry as they are running late. Jasik tells So that they will catch up later and promises to stay in touch. So acknowledges his response with an all right. Curious about the interaction, Monk asks So who Jasik is, to which So explains that Jasik is a friend he met in a dungeon. As So clan venture deeper into the dungeon, an observant man watches them from behind and a cunning smile forms on his face. Meanwhile, Jasik's clan members express their curiosity about the person he was conversing with, but soon they recognize that it was indeed So Park. While talking to So, Jasik found it difficult to tell So that Jasik's clan fell apart after two of his closest comrades decided to leave, citing the need to recover from the stress and toll of constant killing and death. Unfortunately, this is a common occurrence in the world of hunters, where the absence of core members can lead to a clan's dissolution. The process of forming and disbanding a level O clan is relatively straightforward, but the emotional toll can be significant. With his current clan, Jasik is assigned to provide rear support, keeping a safe distance from the main team. Hunters without a clan often resort to daily dungeon quests with temporary groups. However, Jasik remains optimistic, believing that among the people he encounters in these temporary groups, he will find his future comrades destined to work with him. He sees this as an opportunity to start anew. Riding on a powerful motorcycle, wearing a helmet, Inspector Choi speeds toward her destination. She calls Miss Miso to inform her that she stopped by So clan's office, only to discover that they have already departed for the dungeon. Miso assures her that she will send the coordinates. As soon as Choi receives the coordinates, she confirms it with Miso and accelerates towards her destination. Monk skillfully activates Dragon Dash, a new ability he acquired from the skill book, using the money he earned from the clan. Meanwhile, Dongsu proudly showcases So's younger brother, Genho Park, also known as the Butcher, who possesses a calm demeanor until he wields his sword. As Genho battles a massive toad monster, Dongsu's tracking skill alerts him to another toad monster approaching from behind. Genho, drenched in blood from his intense combat, fearlessly attacks the second toad monster with a display of ruthless butchery, accompanied by an unsettling smile. Observing this, Dongsu notices Genho's apparent enjoyment of the violence. Just then, So arrives on the scene, taking a quick look and feeling confident that his skilled clan members have the situation under control. On the other hand, Jasik's clan is fully engaged in fighting the toad monsters. They attempt to gain an advantage by bombarding the creatures with fire, but tragically, Jasik himself is hit by one of the fire bombs. He falls to the ground, coughing up blood and feeling incredulous that one of his own clan members has mistakenly fired a bomb at him. As the battle rages on, one of Jasik's comrades is coiled by a toad monster's tongue and desperately calls for help. Lying on the ground, blood flowing from his mouth, Jasik realizes that this team is also doomed to fail. Inwardly, he becomes envious of So's successful clan. However, as he struggles to rise from the ground, he understands that there is no way So and his clan would accept a swordsman like him stuck at a low E rank. As So and his clan make their way out of the cleared dungeon, Dongsu excitedly shares that their clearance time has improved, and he feels less fatigued as well. Monk expresses how meaningful the experience was, feeling the power of the renowned skill book. So agrees and announces that it's time to divide into groups for future quests. The man who had observed them upon entering the dungeon greets them as they emerge. Curious, So asks the man who he is, and he introduces himself as Mayong Choi from the BDG Guild, sliding his card towards So. Dongsu realizes that BDG Guild is a prestigious level 5 guild in District 4, ranking among the top 20 large-scale guilds in Korea. Furthermore, they are the owners of the portal they just exited. Curious about the man's business with them, So inquires further. Mayong Choi explains that he considers himself fortunate to have an up-and-coming clan like theirs in the same district. As a gesture of goodwill, he wishes to offer them a gift. Intrigued, So asks about the nature of the gift. He reveals that, as a gesture of goodwill, BDG Guild will allow So's clan to enter the Level 2 dungeon in their district for free, which is a significant offer since it typically costs 2 million won to access such dungeons. Dongsu finds the gesture heartwarming and expresses his excitement, but Jeno suggests they take some time to prepare before diving into a Level 2 dungeon. Mayang assures them that there's no need to worry, as he has prepared a perfect attack strategy and the necessary equipment as a gift for them. Encouraging them to proceed, he tells them to head out whenever they are ready. Dongsu feels reassured, believing that with such support and So leading the way, they will be more than capable. However, Su advises his clan members to return to Level 1 dungeons and focus on building their teamwork. He decides to head to the Level 2 dungeon on his own. His clan members agree with his decision, and Mayang smirks at the decision. So's clan members accept So's leadership and comply with his wishes. Mayang offers So his car to facilitate his journey to the Level 2 dungeon, and they all hop on board, making their way there. Mayang informs So that they will be using Portal 47 for their entry. So notices the absence of other hunters at the portal, and Mayang explains that it's because this particular portal is relatively new. He assures So that he has taken care of all the necessary measures for their safe entry. So expresses gratitude and asks if Mayang went out of his way to do all this for his clan. Mayang replies that they would appreciate So's clan continuing to use their portals in the future. So, however, reveals that he prefers dungeons closer to their location. Upon arriving at their destination, Mayang checks with his man if everything is ready, and he confirms that it is. Mayang's man hands So a bag containing an attack plan and a survival kit, and So thanks him before proceeding towards the dungeon's entrance. Before entering, So suggests that they grab a bite to eat when he returns, to which Mayang agrees and adds that they can also have a drink, confident that So will finish the task swiftly. As So activates his helmet and enters the dungeon, Mayang cunningly smirks. However, his attention is drawn to someone approaching on a heavy bike from behind. It is Inspector Choi, and she takes off her helmet, approaching Mayang with a sense of urgency. Mayang inquires about her identity, and she introduces herself as part of So's clan. Determined to join So inside the dungeon, she rushes forward, letting Mayang know that she's going in as well. Mayang, with a cunning smile, welcomes her as his guest. Mayang instructs his man that the price is 2 billion won per person. Confused, his man questions the high amount, as it's not even an assassination. Mayang explains that although fabricating the event itself is relatively easy, the risks involved due to So's fame are exceptionally high. Thus, the price for both will be a total of 4 billion won. Dongsu, while inspecting the car, comes across Suho's phone. Meanwhile, Captain Miso becomes concerned when she tries to contact Swayong Choi, but her phone is still on her bike. Miso decides to reach out to Mr. Park. She contacts him and asks if he has located Swayong. To her surprise, Mr. Park reveals that he has located her in a recently opened Level 5 dungeon. This revelation shocks Captain Miso and makes her recall her last conversation with Swayong when she asked if it was truly necessary to follow Suho into the portal. Captain Miso queries Mr. Park about Swayong's presence in the Level 5 dungeon and the identity of its overseer. Mr. Park discloses that the DGB Guild is responsible for the dungeon. Miso promptly directs him to investigate the entrance records for that specific dungeon and urgently requests to make the person in charge contact her without delay. Orc throws Suho, he crashes into the wall, and the entire army of orcs rushes towards him, intent on killing him. Swayong sees the imminent danger and quickly moves to protect Suho. From his position on the ground, Suho realizes that this battle will be anything but easy. Swiftly, he grabs one of the monsters and slams it to the ground, then throws an axe, cleaving the monster's head in half. However, rain of arrows descends upon them. Swayong notices the presence of archers among the orcs. She activates a defense bomb, which annihilates the approaching orc army. As the dust settles, Suho takes Swayong's hand and urges her to run. The relentless onslaught of arrows continues to fall around them. Swayong questions their escape plan, pointing out that they are surrounded by orcs and there's nowhere to run. Suho reveals that there is an opening, a cliff edge. Swayong protests that it's not a viable escape route, but Suho insists that it's precisely why they must take it. Without hesitation, Suho orders Swayong to hold on tight as he leaps off the cliff. Suho and Soyoung successfully land on the ground safely while the pursuing orcs, who also jumped off the cliff, meet their demise upon crashing to the ground. Suho catches Soyoung, who asks if she is still alive. He playfully tosses her onto the ground and teases her, mentioning it was a close call. They enter a tunnel to find refuge from the relentless roars of monsters up the hill. Soyoung expresses annoyance at monsters' cries. Curious about their next move, she asks Mr. Irregular about their plan. Suho explains that his plan is to kill 4 more orcs, which will allow him to level up. Soyoung sighs and reminds him that leveling up only removes limitations and doesn't necessarily provide a significant power boost. However, Suho insists that, in his case, leveling up removes certain restrictions. Suho adds that, in addition, leveling up is a power-up. Outside the level 5 dungeon at night, the emergency control department approaches the area. They warn everyone not to cross the barricade and advise to step aside. A reporter standing by the dungeon reports on the recent scandalous accident that occurred there 2 days ago, mentioning the involvement of Suho and the DGB Guild. Dongshu is seen on the ground, crying for Suho's well-being. Meanwhile, the suspect Mayong is arrested and taken away. He initially claims that Suho Park and Soyoung Choi entered the dungeon willingly, but a thorough investigation by detection specialist Major Young-soo Kim reveals it to be a lie. Eventually, Mayong confesses to his crime. The press bombards him with questions as he is being carried away. The reporter continues his broadcast, highlighting the focus on whether Suho Park, believed to be a returnee from a 4th planet, will survive and make it back alive. The value of the gate to a new planet in the current era of dimensional industry and the potential damage it may cause to Korea are also discussed. Inside the chief's office, Captain Miso enters while the news is being broadcasted. She confronts the chief, questioning his actions and intentions. The chief asks her to clarify what she means by her statement. She asserts that they must apprehend all the responsible individuals. The chief inquires if she means the ones behind the incident, and he assures her that they already have. He mentions that the head of the Yongari gang is on the run and is currently wanted by the police. Inspector Choi makes her way into the dungeon after learning about So's presence from So's clan, who informed her that So was headed to a different portal. So she updated Miss Miso about the situation. She receives an order to follow So into the portal. Curious about the purpose of this assignment, Soyoung Choi questions the necessity of observing So's combat skills in a level 2 dungeon. She expresses her lack of preparation for such a mission and unwillingness to potentially ruin her clothes. However, Miss Miso insists that she wears the bracelet they provided, which would grant her the necessary gear and protection. To entice her, Miso promises to pay her double for the trip. Still hesitant, Soyoung Choi wonders if all this is truly required. Miso explains that their main goal is to keep So in Korea. Though Choi thought they worked out a contract, Miso labels it as insurance and pleads with Choi to carry out the task. Ultimately, Inspector Choi agrees to the mission and enters the level 2 dungeon as instructed. Inside the dungeon, So senses a strange atmosphere and notices someone else entering. The newcomer activates a combat dress with her bracelet and regrets not negotiating for higher pay. She looks up and sees So looking at her, complimenting her bracelet and wondering if it functions as an inventory. So then questions her purpose in being there, asking if she came to fight him. Soyoung Choi responds that Captain Miso informed So that she would be sending the best agent, and she happens to be the best. So expresses uncertainty about her claim, which irritates her, and she insists that he should not underestimate her. So warns her not to even think about interfering with his hunt. Soyoung Choi reassures him that she's merely there to observe his abilities. Suddenly, a monstrous creature appears with an axe in hand, causing a loud boom. Soyoung Choi notes that they already have an unexpected guest. Soyoung Choi alerts So of an approaching enemy from behind. As So turns around, he sees an orc warrior, a formidable dungeon boss right from the start. So informs Soyoung that there are 4 more of these orc warriors heading their way. She expresses disbelief, assuming it's a level 2 dungeon. However, So corrects her, revealing that this is not a level 2 dungeon, surprising her. So then questions if she missed this fact when entering the portal and playfully asks if she's really the best. Irritated by the remark, Soyoung explains that the bracelet she's wearing has a shielding effect. Without hesitation, So dashes towards the approaching monster, warning Soyong Choi not to interfere with his prey. Soyong Choi is amazed by So's incredible speed and skill. As the monsters close in on him, So swiftly takes them down, slamming one to the ground and reclaiming his axe as it fell from its hand. With 3 more monsters approaching, So shows no hesitation, swiftly decapitating one with a single swing, causing blood to gush out as it collapses lifeless. Another monster advances towards So, but he quickly cuts its head in half with a powerful stroke. The last and final monster growls menacingly, but So doesn't back down. He takes a daring leap, fleeing from its reach. Swiftly, he spots a rope hanging from a tree, grabs hold of it, and with impressive agility, he swings back, landing behind the orc monster. In one swift motion, he brings down his axe, delivering a fatal blow to the monster's head, sending it crashing to the ground. Outside the dungeon, Mayong receives a call and instructs the person on the other end to deposit the remaining balance. He goes on to express his doubt about So and Soyong's chances of survival, even if both of them were S-rank adventurers. The person on the other side becomes curious and asks Mayong what level of dungeon they are currently in. With a resounding thud, the monster falls on its back. Soyong Choi watches in disbelief at his remarkable fighting skills. Yet another orc wielding an axe charges at So, but he remains unfazed, determined to eliminate all these monsters, regardless of the dungeon's level. The monster swings its axe, but So dodges with agility, causing the weapon to slam hard into the ground. Seizing the opportunity, So delivers a powerful kick that sends the orc flying backward until it crashes into a tree, leaving it incapacitated. As So stands over the defeated monster, a notification appears, informing him that he has gained 32 performance points. So proclaims that this place is dope. Soyong carries his bag, but So insists she can help him gather bloodstones. However, Soyong comes to the realization that despite So being an irregular, he lacks the experience. So approaches the fallen orc and proceeds to stab and tear it apart to extract its bloodstone. As So continues his hunting and slaughter without the slightest hint of hesitation, Soyong becomes troubled and wonders if he lacks empathy. Suddenly, something dawns on her, and she looks around the area. So collects the orc's stone, but as he holds it, he notices its unusually large size. Soyong, however, interrupts him, expressing their lack of time. She tosses the bag aside and reveals that despite killing 4 boss-ranked orcs, the dungeon's door hasn't opened yet. She points out that the bag is filled with ordinary stones. So suggests that they can use the bag to store their bloodstones. Soyong finds the idea ridiculous and reveals that the dungeon they are in is at least a level 4, and if it's even higher, they might not survive even if they fight together. So begins to worry that Mayong deceived him into entering this dangerous level 4 dungeon by making him believe it was only a level 2, and to top it off, he did it for free. Overwhelmed by the situation, So starts crying and promises to repay Mayong Choi once they get out. Soyong wonders what is wrong with So. Suddenly, an orc unexpectedly appears and lunges at Soyong. She frantically searches for her sword, only to realize that she had left it back on her bike. Panic sets in, but before the orc can harm her, So swiftly intervenes, leaping into action and attacking the creature with his axe. With a powerful swing, he cuts the orc in half, leaving it lifeless on the ground. So reassures Soyong not to worry, as he is strong enough to protect them, though he mentions that he used to be even stronger. However, Soyong's attention is quickly drawn to another approaching danger. She activates the insight ability in her eyes, allowing her to see an infrared image of a group of individuals running towards them. Soyong activates her insight. Her eyes widen in shock as she realizes that they are surrounded by an entire army of orcs. Among the massive creatures, she spots one particular orc that stands out as the great orc warrior. Seho, on the other hand, appears excited at the prospect of facing so many opponents. Soyong takes a protective stance in front of Seho, extending her hand as a signal to shield him from the impending attack of the orc army. The orcs, riding on ferocious monsters, speed toward them, led by an orc rider. So can't help but express his admiration for the coolness of the monsters the orcs are riding, which are wolves. With determination, they both rush towards the oncoming orc army, ready to confront the overwhelming odds. So instructs Soyong to refrain from interfering, declaring that all the orcs are his prey. Soyong urges Seho to focus on the fight instead. She jumps into action, activating her shield to protect herself, while So continues to cut down orcs with his axe, causing them to crash to the ground. Using her inventory ability, Soyoung summons a sword and joins the fight, slashing at the orc army with swift movements. She can't help but wish she had her own sword. So hurls an orc back to the ground with a powerful strike. So and Soyoung continue their onslaught, cutting down orc after orc, causing blood to splatter all around them. However, their formidable foe, the orc chieftain, intervenes, lifting So with its weapon and throwing him forcefully to the ground with a loud thud. So quickly recovers and clenches his fist and confronts the chieftain, questioning if it's the boss. The orc chieftain responds with a mighty roar, and Soyoung advises So to focus on taking down the chieftain first. So heeds her advice and attacks the chieftain, stabbing it in the head with his weapon. Despite the attack, the chieftain shows resilience and growls, throwing So away once again. Captain Miso, sitting in her office, becomes concerned when Mr. Park informs her that something is strange. He mentions that Soyoung and So should be linked together, but their cell signals are coming from two separate places. Moreover, there has been no movement from either of them for the past hour. He shares that So's location corresponds to a level 1 dungeon, but when it comes to Soyoung's location, Mr. Park hesitates to disclose further information. Miso's worry grows as she's certain that both Soyoung and So are together. Outside the level 1 dungeon, So's clan decides to take an hour-long break before venturing back inside. However, Miso believes that merely putting the blame on one manager won't suffice, considering this is a level 5 dungeon. The chief questions whether Miso wants him to dismantle an entire level 5 guild over this matter. Miso argues that cutting ties with one individual won't resolve the issue. The chief then shares his doubts about So Park's background, revealing that they are not even certain if he is a returnee from a 4th planet or a dungeon. The news report also highlights the increasing cases involving criminal organizations, leading to calls for better management of dungeons by the guilds. Chief explains that they approached the press to put pressure on the guilds, hoping to initiate an inspection and bring about positive change. He cynically remarks that they might as well make some money from the situation, given the opportunities it presents. Miso's eyes well up with tears as she blames herself, feeling guilty for sending Soyoung into the dangerous situation. The chief reassures her, expressing his own deep concern and worry for Soho and Soyoung. He emphasizes that all they can do at the moment is to have faith in Soyoung and wait for any updates. The news report adds to their anxiety, stating that experts believe the chances of the two individuals returning safely are low. Overwhelmed by emotions, Miso falls to her knees, unable to contain her tears. Inside the dungeon, a mysterious tree spirit appears before a powerful boss orc. The boss orc tries to grab the tree spirit with its hand, but the agile spirit quickly evades, flying to the other side. Enraged by the elusive spirit, the monster attempts to strike it down with its massive axe. However, the tree spirit keeps flying and skillfully dodges the relentless attacks. The boss orc doesn't realize that its constant chasing brings it directly to So, who seizes the chance to act. So swiftly swings his weapon, slicing the monster's head in half. As the monster falls lifeless to the ground, a notification appears, informing So that he has gained 32 performance points for the successful kill. Covered in the creature's blood, So realizes that he only needs 3 more kills to level up. Soyoung uses her insight ability and warns So that there's an orc warrior 300 feet away. Ignoring her caution, So rushes towards the warrior, but Soyoung shouts for him to wait, suspecting it's a trap. In midair, So tries to stab the orc warrior, but an unexpected explosion occurs as soon as he steps on the ground, sending him crashing back on ground. The orc warrior uses a signal to call other orcs, who quickly approach, growling menacingly. Worriedly, Soyoung urges So to get up, but he finds himself in a weakened state, unable to move or defend himself properly. He realizes that his senses are fading, and he can't even lift a finger because he hasn't eaten in 2 days. Soyoung takes action, activating a defense bomb that eliminates all the monsters. However, the effort takes a toll on her as well, and she collapses to the ground. So manages to pick up his weapon and continues fighting, taking down another orc warrior, leaving only 2 remaining. With his determination and skills, he defeats 1 more, and only 1 orc warrior stands before him. So eliminates the final foe and recognizes that it's time for him to level up. We really hope that you enjoyed this manhwa. Make sure to like and subscribe for more.